Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 59 of the Former Action Guys podcast. I'm your host, Justin Kramer. This week I have on Marine Assaultman Salvador Lara. He was with 2-7. He was an infantryman with 2-7, did a couple deployments, went to Iraq, earned 2 Purple Hearts during his deployments to Iraq. He got stepped on an IED for one, and then got hit by a suicide bomber that was driving a dump truck with 5,000 pounds of explosives. He took some shrapnel from that, and that was actually the second one of those suicide bombers that struck his unit. So we get into both of those. Honestly, this podcast is probably some of the craziest war stories I've heard. Some of the stuff he was doing was pretty wild, and that he went through was pretty wild. So it fills up 3 hours, just over 3 hours, and I think it's totally worth it. And it's make sure you listen to the whole thing, because we focus a ton on his deployment and then kind of the after effects of when those guys come back and stuff like that, and some of the issues that having multiple casualties and earning multiple Purple Hearts, it comes with that mental health part. So we discuss that and stuff like that. So really good podcast. Make sure to check it out. As always, if you're not watching this video, make sure to subscribe to the Former Action Guys podcast YouTube channel if you haven't already. Give a like and leave comments under your favorite episodes. I'd also like for you to leave a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, because it is one of the few platforms that allows reviews, and I want people to know that the show contains quality content. We've broken into the top 100 for a documentary podcast on Apple Podcasts, so thank you for everyone that's left a review or that's subscribing on there. Please share. Please make sure everyone that is getting on there and hitting the like and share button. So, all right. Other than that, I think that's all I got. Oh, wait. As always, make sure to hit my website, jkramergraphics.com, and my Instagram, at jkramergraphics, awesome. And at Former Action Guys. Enjoy the episode.
Yeah.
Everybody I talk to that is involved in, organizations that do donations and stuff like that, every one of them are like, dude, donate to the Semper Fi Fund. If you're going to choose any single organization, the Semper Fi Fund is the one that does the most for at least Marine veterans. I don't know about other stuff, but I know for the Marine veterans, they do the most for that. So that's cool, though, man.
Yeah, that was pretty good. The link I sent you just recently, I don't know if you got it yet. It was, I don't know if you want to share that one. It's one of my friends from 2-7 sent over a kind of an article over to the New York Times that got a lot of headlines, that got the Semper Fi Fund kind of really pushing for other nonprofits to help us out. That's when 2-7 was over in matter of time of 1 year, we had more casualties than we had in combat. So that was pretty tough.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So I got the article and I read through it. I actually found the same article on a New Mexico news website too.
Yeah.
So I'll probably copy that link and I'll put it in the show notes to show, because the New York Times one has a paywall. That way I get more people can actually read it. The other one doesn't have a paywall, so people can check it out. But I didn't realize 2-7 had that, it was. I didn't realize that was an issue with 2-7. I knew 3-5, because there was a similar kind of article that came out and conversations that have happened with people that were staying in with 3-5 in 2010 about suicides and stuff like that. Obviously, suicides are, I don't know, man. I've talked about suicides on the podcast a few times. It's just one of those things, is not just veterans, but just as people, you just kind of have to deal with, I've had uncles that committed suicide. My roommate, when I was in Iraq in 2009, we lost touch. He just kind of fell off the map for me for a couple years. And then I got a random text from him one day, and I was like, dude, where? I was in Hong Kong, and I happened to be off the ship, and my phone was on, and he sent me a random message, and I'm like, is this really your account? I thought I was getting I thought some Chinese spy or some shit was trying to, get my shit while I was in Hong Kong. And I'm like, is this really you? Because I hadn't heard from the guy in years. And we started talking. He sent some weird messages, and then we started talking a little bit. And then I lost touch with him again. And then one of my buddies, a year later, told me he had committed suicide. And I was like, dude, man, what the fuck? And it's, I don't know, man. I don't know what you can do about it. I feel it's tough. It's I want to get more into that stuff later. I don't want to start off with that. I'd like to talk, about up into that point, what
Right.
happened with you guys with 2-7 and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I got a pretty big chunk of my life into that since, like I said, deployed in 2007. I was going to deploy again in 2008. That's when 2-7 initially pushed into Singin, and
Yeah.
we were up and ready. I'm not gonna lie, man. Maybe like 10 days before we deployed, I got put on the med board
Oh, really?
from injuries that happened in 2007.
Oh,
So
okay.
I got 2 Purple Hearts in 2007 in that deployment. So
Oh, shit.
I was already pushing my luck there. So going to Sangin, I was mentally kind of scared, So
Oh, yeah, man, for sure.
I got just thrown into RBE, the rain back element, and that just sent me downhill, man. So
Yeah.
I'll talk about that. I stayed back with all the guys who were wounded, things like that. So I thought that was something good to share that people don't get to see, because I haven't really talked to anybody who stayed in the remain back element as not just, oh, you're a shithead, a broke dick, blah blah blah, but I medically couldn't deploy, and
Yeah.
it was such a tough decision, not just for myself, doctors and things like that. So I thought I could share that, and kind of
For sure.
saw that perspective of the military, how
Yeah.
forgotten those people become, and
Yeah.
I decided to get out and things like that. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, you're right, dude. Well, let's start from the beginning though. So where are you from, and why did you choose the Marine Corps?
Okay. I was born in Mexico.
Okay.
My family migrated here when I was 10 legally, and went through the whole process. Takes about 4 years. Luckily, my entire family was approved. Got here with nothing but our clothes on our backs, literally. And my dad had already been living here for about 17 years, so I never really had a relationship with my dad, because I would see him once a year. So
isn't that kind of a common thing with Mexican immigrants, that like a father will come over first and try to like get a job and establish a foothold while the rest of the family remains in Mexico?
Yes, yeah, it happens a lot. And mostly trying to support the family down there, because you don't want to migrate, go through the whole process of coming here illegally, then you try to apply legally, and then you get denied because you're here illegally. So that was the whole concept of we had to wait, and it paid off. We got put into the school systems. I didn't know any English, so within 2 years I picked it up.
That's awesome.
It was tough, but
what part of Mexico did you move from?
Michoacan, which is the western central coast.
Okay.
And
nice. And where'd you move to?
Moved to Long Beach, California. Okay. So it was awesome. You're a little kid and big city now. Came from a little town, and so picked up English pretty quick. I was still a smart little kid, book wise, and aced everything. Once my English got better, middle school, I was straight A student. I was, I guess, overall pretty good kid. I'm the middle child. I got a younger sister, older brother, and so I was kind of out of the radar my whole life.
Same. Yeah.
And just up to high school, I was pretty much like straight A student. Senior year came, and junior year came, and one of my counselors was like, well, you're doing so good. What college or university do you want to go to? And that it was like out of the blue, and I wasn't even ready to answer that question. And she's like, well, think about it. Here's brochures. Here's how to apply. You can qualify for this, and this type of scholarships because your grades are good, all of this. And so I looked into it and realized, I guess, the ticket price for each university or college. And, my parents didn't have much. my older brother hadn't gotten to college. He straight up went to work right after high school. So, we're pretty poor, growing up my whole life, but, pretty humble family, I guess. My parents never even owned a car the entire time. They still to today, they still don't own a car. They depend on public transportation. So that's
crazy.
That's the kind of like poor we come from. So, and school buses were available, city buses were available, so we never had to worry about it. And so senior year comes along, and I'm looking at all this stuff, and I kept seeing recruiters coming to the high school. Never really actually talked to one. First generation Marine, and so I had nobody to depend on as to what to expect, what to look for, what I should do, all of this, until an army sergeant came up to me and be like, "Hey, are you a senior?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just started my senior year." He's like, "Hey, here's my card. Come to my office, and we'll talk more about your future." And obviously, I was interested in the military. I only did 1 year of ROTC my sophomore year. If I would have known you get a free promotion after doing all 4 years, I would have stayed. But nobody ever told me. So here I am, senior year, just a kid, just lost. Hadn't put any applications for anything, for any school, any university, nothing. I'm just out in the wind, and I'm like, you know what? Military was something I kind of always thought about. Let me look into it, because I was done with school. Everybody's just like pushing through like cattle, and student debts, and you got to do this and that, and you got to, everybody just goes to college not knowing what they're doing, and I didn't want to be one of those people. I didn't want to be just pushing to the wind, and hopefully you land on your feet somehow. And so I went to this army recruiter, which was my original plan was to join the army.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to this recruiter, and it's the end of the day because I just gotten out of school, and it's like almost 5:00. He's packing his bag. He's like, "All right, let me go get a brochure." Walks to the back. He's by himself. So I'm sitting there in this office just glancing at brochures, and like 10 minutes pass by, 15 minutes, 20 minutes pass by, and I'm still sitting there. And behind me, I hear somebody knocking at the window, and it was sergeant from the Marine Corps right next door. Like, "Hey man, you've been sitting here for a little bit. What's going on?" It's like, "Oh, I'm waiting for Sergeant bloody blah, And he hasn't come back. He's like, "You know what? That's how you take care of people. And that's the army. Come with me." And no shit, he stole the recruiter's, recruit.
Yeah, you came with the intention to sign up for the army, and that dude just swooped in and got you.
And he's like, "Yeah, let me talk to you." And sure enough, walked right next door. We started talking. Everything seemed good, and
puts out the little tiles. Pick out 3 tiles. What do you want to do?
Pick out 3 tiles. Yeah. How much money do you want? Do you want, GI Bill, this and that? Here's the machine guns we shoot. Here's tanks. Here's this. And it sold it to me, man. And sure enough, he's like, "How about you come back tomorrow? Your grades look good, and let's just keep talking some more, man. Maybe you're actually interested." And at the time I was 17. I just turned 17. And he's like, "But, we need your parents' permission." And I was like, "Oh man, Hispanic family, man. Hispanic, conservative, very religious family, man. So trying to break the news to them that I want to join the military. Not just the military, the Marine Corps." Yeah. That was tough in itself. So it took me about 6 months of doing chores, doing everything for my mom. Obviously, she still said no. And just one day, after we did all the tests, the applications, everything was good to go, and they gave me a deployment date as soon as my parents signed. If they signed, they were like, "You can go the 4th of July of 2005. And I'm like, "Are you serious?" I graduated high school June 15th, I want to say. So that gave me 2 weeks to 20 days to like become a man, pretty much.
You got to
And
get ready to go to boot camp, yeah.
yeah, and I'm like, all you got to do is convince your mom. And I was like, man, this is gonna be a tough one. So I talked and talked to her. She would say no, and my dad was like, well, if you want to do it, go for it. My dad didn't, obviously. He's like, don't want to be a little street thug in the streets of Long Beach. So recruiters finally came to my house and talked to my mom. They were both Hispanic, so they spoke to her in Spanish and kind of told her what to expect. That, you know, battalions are very, they use a lot of communications between the families, so they don't just take your kid and disappear.
Yeah.
And so they helped them out, and I don't know exactly how they got her to say yes, but at the very end, she's like, if this is what he's gonna do when he turns 18, we're just holding him back from doing it now.
Yeah.
So she signed because we needed both parents. They both signed, and there I am, 17 and a half, graduated high school, had no time to like enjoy my freedom of
your freedom from school.
From school, I was already working just odd jobs in the summers, so pretty much just packed all my stuff, put it in the garage, and went to a family outing on the 4th of July because we couldn't go to MEPS on a holiday, so we had to wait for the 5th. So here we are doing fireworks, which is kind of funny because the 4th of July is coming up, and 4th of July is kind of like a remembrance date for myself, and so we're doing fireworks. I'm with family, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm like, kind of hits me, you know, like I'm doing this for them. I'm doing all of this sacrifice. I have no idea what I'm putting myself through for this, for this freedom, for family. And 4th of July at midnight, we take off back to Long Beach from, I want to say we're in Santa Barbara. And at 3 a.m. on the dot, recruiters were at my door to pick me up on the 5th to go to MEPS. And that, you know, my mom was crying, and I was like, it's fine, you know. And, you know, you're there at MEPS all day, and it's just a pain in the ass.
Got to do the paperwork, get your butt looked at.
Yeah, you know, the stuff they don't tell you about, obviously. Yeah. So, and that's when it's like they're already yelling at you, and you're shuffling here and there, and you're dehydrated, you're hungry, you're tired, you're everything. So they put you on the bus. I went to MCRD in San Diego, so that was only a 2-hour ride from LA, and you know, what is it called, Black Friday?
Yeah, Black Friday.
The Black Friday, and it was, you know, more tiredness, less sleep, and finally get drill instructors. Everything kicks in, and it was right after high school, so that's when the volume of recruits in just overall Marine Corps so high. So we had about 35 recruits per squad bay, so that was a lot of people.
Really? Only 35? I thought platoon was that for your whole platoon? Was 35 people?
Yeah, I think so.
Really? I went in May, which is around the summertime. Also, you know, you start to get it starts to up ramp. I went to Paris Island, and I think they had like 70 something. But I was also in during the plus up. I think my platoon was like 70 to 75 people.
Okay, yeah, we were a lot though. But anyway, I don't know how many the squad baits hold, but the squad bait we only had like an empty rack. That's it.
Full of dudes.
Yeah, and you know, that's when it's like reality hits you, and but you know.
So you had no background. You had no military background. You're a first generation American now. You know, like would you say first generation American or first generation immigrant?
First generation, pretty much immigrant. Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know that which is great. You know, but you're going to the Marine Corps with no real background or understanding of what's about to happen.
Yeah.
So, like, what was the shock, like, when you got there, and it was like, I don't know, I mean, YouTube wasn't really a thing in 2005. Right. Did you find videos on the internet or anything like that kind of showed boot camp, or was it all completely a new experience?
Well, I mean, I've seen movies. Me and my dad were big on, you know, war movies and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Full Metal Jacket was big then, and I'm like,
everybody watches Full Metal Jacket at least 10 times before you go to boot camp.
Yeah, and I'm like, that was my whole experience about boot camp and exactly how it was. And I want to say within the first week, every platoon has, 3 to 4 drill instructors.
Mm-hmm.
And we only had 3, our senior, our bulldog, and whatever the other one is called, and then
The drill hat.
the drill hat. And another one comes on board and tells us, like, hey, we're training this drill instructor, and he's going to be with us the remaining of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Another week goes by, and hey, we're training this drill instructor. He's going to be with us the whole remaining of the time. Another week goes by, another drill instructor. So my platoon had 6 drill instructors that would be on and off. But there would be the drill instructors that would be, one drill instructor was the swim call drill instructor. So he was on and off between platoons doing swim calls. So he wasn't with us. So we had 6 of them.
Yeah.
While other platoons had 3 or 4. So that was already challenging enough because you couldn't hide, you couldn't get away with anything.
Yeah.
So
there's no hiding from 6 drill instructors.
And just the boot camp life was definitely.
Boot camp, man.
Like I said, nobody ever told me what to expect. So it was definitely a challenge for me because I was in wrestling, so I was pretty fit. I was a good runner, all of that, but still kicked my ass pretty good. I never really did anything with stuff on my back or with gigantic boots on my feet, things like that, and shin splits are no joke, man.
Yeah, you definitely got to get used to that from all the marching, like pounding your heel when you're marching, and just like you said, carrying shit on your back or running in boots everywhere you go. That stuff really starts to wear on you. When you joined, did you sign up for a specific job or did you come in open contract?
Well, I actually joined to be a military police, but at the time I wasn't a citizen yet. I was just a resident. So to be MP, you need to be a citizen. So they're like, well, if you want to do action, because that's what I wanted to do, MP is probably not the way to go. You want to go infantry. My recruiter was infantry prior, 0311. And like I said, I was a smart kid, so my ASVAB scores, everything was so high, and he was trying to push me somewhere, not quite combat. He was telling me all the stuff I actually qualified for. Even like submarine science, blah, 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 like being the technician for the reactors at submarines. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, but I don't want to be in the submarine. I just like go shoot people, man. I never shot a gun in my life before. He's like, well, I don't know what you want. Here's a list. You got to choose one. So I'm like, well, I still don't know. How about I put you up on contract 03? And I was like, no, sure, why not? I'm still going to be in the 03 field. Whatever, just throw something at me. I'll get it done. So, just went open contract 03, and, could have been anything, 03, 11, 31, 51, 41. And so didn't think anything of it because I had no idea what an MOS was, never researched anything of it. So you just kind of waited for boot camp to be over to see where I was going to be stationed. And just our platoon was overall like overachiever since we had so many drill instructors. We had all those competitions like initial drill, final drill, swim qual, shoot qual, all of that. We were the, because you compete between the other platoons.
Yeah.
We won all competitions, and our reward was like a $1 cheeseburger from McDonald's. And like,
that's funny.
Growing in,
probably quite the reward though.
Yeah, well, of course, it was. Never had a hamburger from McDonald's, believe it or not. That was my first hamburger of McDonald's. Really? Hamburger.
That's weird. Your first hamburger from McDonald's in boot camp?
And boot camp, because my parents always taught us, you got to eat healthy, blah blah blah, and never called my attention, but kind of weird story to tell that was my first time having a McDonald's hamburger in boot camp.
That's pretty wild.
And I think final days of boot camp came along, and we're just kind of doing all the final stuff, and they're going to tell us our duty stations, and they go through the list, and they're kind of telling you are here, you are here, Well, another funny story about boot camp. At the beginning, uh, they were like, "Hey, recruit Laura." Me and another guy run up. We're like, "Oh, your last name is Laura too." And it's like, "No, I want Salvador Lara." Oh, okay. I stay standing there. So does he. We don't know each other. We have the same first and last name. We're both from LA. And
Oh, really?
we end up in the same boot camp platoon. And that was kind of random because, uh, it kind of sucked because every time he was a little shithead. So every time they called his name, I would respond. So we're both doing whatever we're doing because he's fucking up and I respond. So, oh, you're responding. Well, come over here too.
Yeah, you come with him.
Yeah.
Like,
So yeah,
that
that
sucks.
was kind of interesting. So yeah, they gave everybody their duty stations and sounded all amazing. Okinawa, and you're going to whatever camp in Twin and Palms or area bloody blind Twin and Camp Belton. There was one or two people that got specialized units. We had a contract recon, and I was like one of the last like 10 to get picked. And they're like, "Oh, all of you are going to hell." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Literally,
Sounds like fun.
you guys are going to 29 Palms. And I was like, "Oh, okay." So, but they tell you where you're going, but you still got to go through SOI and things like that. And so that ended, and got to go home for a little bit, and got to see my family. And but just 10 days later, you're back in SOI, and SOI starts, and I'm like, all right, this is the Marine Corps life. It's chill. Nope, you're still marching in squares. You're still running everywhere. You're still eating crappy food. But now they're cutting you. You're not in such big groups. Now you're in the smaller groups doing specialized schools and things like that. But you start with the basic infantry courses, and they're like, all right, well, they had a list. I think you take a test, I want to say, and based off that test and ASVAB scores, they tell you what you qualify for. And all of you dumb fucks, you go in infantry and boots on the ground, and you guys are going 41s and machine gunners because you guys are retarded, And there was 5 of us, and they're like, well, you 5, you guys are going to be assaultmen. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And
That's
they're
sick.
like, well, you guys, it was, I want to say it was 10 of us. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't know what that is. And they're like, well, you guys are going to be doing this, some EOD stuff, some demolition, some this, some small guns, and kind of brief of what it was going to be for the next like month or so. And I was like, this sounds amazing. So, but what they didn't tell us, it was that it was old books, maybe 1 week of actual shoots and range time. And but I guess that's what happens when I join the military, when I'm too smart, I guess.
So I actually, when I first came in, man, assaultman is the job I wanted because I did like the research, and I'm like, these dudes carry shotguns and they get to carry SMAWs, and like they're breaching. I'm like, that looks sick. Like, so they get to do infantry stuff and they get to blow stuff up.
Yeah.
I was like, that's the coolest job, And then I ended up not being able to get that. I ended up coming in an open contract actually. But that's super cool that you got to do that job. Do you want to explain to the listeners that's not infantry what the role of the assaultman is within a infantry unit?
Well, in the infantry, you have so many other jobs, but the assaultman is responsible for breaching and assault. That's pretty much its definition. Breaching could mean we're not using the front door, we're making our own door. We can't gain access through an entryway, we're making our own entry or blasting our way in. Or, you're using C4, using TNT, using water charges, you're creating your own charges. You're also creating charges if there's armed vehicle presence, like tanks or AAVs, whatever it could be. You learn to make your own charges for anti-tank purposes. You also learn anti-personnel, how to kind of do a perimeter. Not as much anymore. That was more Vietnam style. Like you put charges around your perimeter just in case people's trying to surround you and things like that. You have a backup plan. And that became anti-Geneva, but we still learned it. And then, we do use a shotgun for breaching purposes. Then we had to learn every single armored vehicle there is that's used today in combat or was even used, from the American T-680s to the Markavas from Israel, any vehicle used by anybody in combat. And that was kind of tough because you got to learn its capabilities, how big they are, what their weaknesses are, things like that. Because
vehicle recognition is I was a forward. I don't know if you know. So for those that don't know, we have a mutual friend, Chris Rothblatt, who was on an earlier episode. He and I went to MOS school together. We both lat moved. He was an LAR guy and then became 0861 as well, and then went to 3rd Anglico, and that's who introduced us. So what I was going to say, what were you saying? I was getting ready to say something about
the vehicle recognition.
Oh, vehicle recognition. So I was a forward observer. So same thing. Like you had to understand, like, how can you? Well, you had to understand. For us, it was not just vehicles like BDR or BRDMs and like APC, different kind of APCs and stuff like that, but also anti-aircraft. Right. And it's tough, man. Like when you start looking at not only the threat itself, like what is it, what's its name, and how is the armament on it, how is it protected, but now we also had to like look at what's the range of its anti-aircraft systems, and stuff like that. And for people that have never done vehicle recognition, like actually had to go through and memorize stuff, it's tough, man. It's tough to, when you start looking at all the vehicles that our enemies use, there's a lot of variance, and trying to keep all that in your head is tough.
Yeah, we had to learn anything, like you said, anything small, like the little trailer towed behind. I forget what they're called. Anti-air guns. It's the four barrel.
The ZPU. Are you talking about the ZSU 2?
ZSU something like that.
23 Tech 2. Oh man, my fellow JTACs out there are gonna be like, what the fuck? ZSU 23 Tech 4, I believe. It's a 23 millimeter gun with 4 barrels. That's one of them.
You got it better.
And then you have the ZPU, which is the one that which is what I think you're talking about. You said it's a trailer vehicle, so that's probably the ZPU that sometimes you will see. They'll take that ZPU 2, which is 2 barrels, and mount in the back of a pickup truck too, and make it technical.
And I actually ran into one of those in Iraq, which I was like, well, who uses these? I actually ran into one of those in use in Iraq. And I got to put a charge on it and, kind of disable it. So, things like that we actually ran into. But,
so once you found out you're an assaultman and you finish, let's say you're going through the training, were you happy that you were going to be an assaultman, or were you like, man, I should have been a 311?
Well, I mean, once you're starting it, they tell you, here's your book for C4. Here's your book for ID, vehicle ID. Here's your book for the small. And I'm like, wait, rocket launchers? Fuck yeah, you're getting all excited. And then the small, the Dragon, we almost shot one, but it's no longer used, so we didn't get to do one. And so once I learned what I was actually going to do and learn, I was stoked. Because there I am looking at 311s, they're just running up hills. They're just doing buddy rushes, all of this. Machine gunners are learning all about their machine guns, and motormen are learning all about their mortars. And I'm like, how did I end up with this? This is awesome. So we're still doing the humps. We're still doing battalion stuff together. And, we learned about each individual weapon system. And at the end of every week, we would go to the range for a couple hours and shoot SMOS or AT4s or blow some stuff up with C4, and that was awesome, man. And we were weeding out people so quick that out of the 10, only 5 remained at the end of the course, because it's not just not mentally tough. It's not physically tough. It's just the stuff you have to memorize, the stuff you have to learn, test after test after test.
Mm-hmm.
And right out of high school, I was I was good at it. I probably wouldn't be able to do it today, but yeah, we had like a couple hundred questionnaire, and they just show you a silhouette of a vehicle, and you have to tell what the vehicle was, like what its capabilities and weaknesses and type of armor, where it was from, who uses it, what countries they're from, who manufactures it, and even up to how many wheels it could have on its, if it's chain linked, like dumb stuff like that. It was tough, man. But at the end of graduation came along, and those five students that remained, they put us on hold because there were no units ready to take us as assaultmen. And so we went to guard for almost a month. And
oh, really? Camp guard?
For those who know of guard there in SOI in Camp Pendleton, you're just a working party. You walk up and down the streets picking up trash. Cool thing I got to do though was I got to do the folding black ceremony. So in the morning I put it up, in the morning we took it down, and that was cool. Awesome. So I got to learn the black folding ceremony, which is not just you just fold it in a triangle. It's pretty much a guy from Silent Drill that got injured and it was not teaching there, taught us how to properly do it. So those like 10 guys, we were the crew to do it. And so that later on in my Marine Corps career got me into funeral services, which we'll talk about into that later, but that was kind of cool where that came from. So we stayed in guard for about a month. So, decided to do, you do nothing there, man. You just smoke cigarettes, play your PSP or PlayStation, and eat a lot. You can't even go to the gym. You have nothing to do, but,
you're just treading water waiting to get out of there.
Yeah, and those five guys would just kind of stayed at a group trying to keep up with our knowledge because it's so much of it. And then they're like, all right, your unit's ready to take you, and there'll be a shuttle here for you guys tomorrow. So we get in a shuttle, we get in our alphas, because we got to report to duty. And they're like, yeah, you guys are going to 2-7 up in Twin Palms. For me, I was kind of happy that I was staying in California. I had no idea what Twin Palms even was. Sounded like a paradise place, kind of like Camp Pendleton, just next to the beach.
Palm trees. Oh, it's got to be nice.
Yeah, of course. And we end up in high desert. It's kind of like a sister base to the Army's Fort Irwin. If you've ever, people who've done work up there knows how much they sucked. And you get up there, go to the OD, and all five of us were like, we're check in. And they're like, well, you guys are lucky because nobody's here. The unit's in deployment right now. Like, what do you mean? Well, they're in Iraq right now, and they'll be here in 3 months. So we get to the unit that's not even there yet, and obviously who's there to receive us? All the disgruntled
all the RBE dudes.
All the RBE dudes that either couldn't make it, couldn't deploy, getting ready to get out, or the injured ones. And at that time, that was when in 2004, when 2-7 had just done a push through Phantom Fury there in Fallujah, and they took a good amount of hits, a lot of casualties there, and got to talk to those dudes. Limbs missing, sniper casualties, and kept hearing all these war stories. Man, this is terrifying. And I went to Fox Company in 2-7, but as more boots came along, I don't know if I could even say it, but who cares? There was a lot of hazing incidents from all those boots coming in, and all the RBE guys had nothing else to do. But it got pretty severe to where the sergeant major had to come in and take action. And
really? Like what? If you can talk about.
Well, I mean, to where they were getting drunk. They will throw beer at you. They will make you fill sandbags at 3 a.m, things like that. And this is the first time I met the man I will never forget, Sergeant Major Barrett. And Sergeant Major Barrett later became the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. He comes along at like midnight and still in his Charlies. The guy was never off his Charlies. Chews everybody out the next day. Everybody's getting NJPs and stuff. And for legal reasons, they're like, yeah, we're not keeping you in Fox. We're sending you somewhere else. They sent me to Weapons Company in 27, which was even a better option for me because that's where all the specialized fields were. And
I was going to say, aren't assaultmen normally in Weapons Company?
Normally they are, but since it was a battalion that was deploying, all of the assaultmen were actually being used by the line companies as well.
Yeah, they were all farmed out.
Right, and so I ended up in Weapons Company, and I had to start all over again because I'm in a new company, so hazing started again and all of that.
So you're a new guy in the new company, yeah.
And finally the battalion came back, and time started going along. You're a boot forever. I at the time I think I just picked up PFC, and so there I am. PFC. I was a pretty good Marine overall. I was a little shithead, or just they told me to do something, I did it. I didn't want to get hazed or anything. So then the battalion came back. We finally started doing the workups because they had just told us right as they came back that we were going to deploy in 2007. And I want to say it was March of 2007 we were going to deploy. So this is the beginning of 2006-ish when they told us this.
Okay.
And so we have a full year to work up, and we hit the ground running as soon as they got back from Mojave. We actually got to do CATS before it became Mojave Viper. We were one of the last units. Because we were there, we were easily able to take a slot that a unit wasn't able to take, and we did CATS, and then it eventually became Mojave Viper, and I got to the Mojave Viper right before we deployed, so we got to do it twice.
Oh, and yay!
For kind of to tell more about the job is you're an assaultman, you're a breacher, you're kicking the door in, you're breaching for the unit, you're opening the doorways to the unit. For everybody. It could be for foot patrol, or it could be for tanks to come in. So, they tell you to open doors, you open doors. You're a breacher. So it was amazing training, man. Unfortunately, I had to carry the shotgun. I had to carry shells for the shotgun. I had to carry my own M16, ammunition for the M16, and at the time they still issued us a couple bricks of C4 to do charges and things like that. So I'm running with all of that, and we're sprinting up this hill in Mojave Viper, and I'm like, man, this is what I'm going to be doing. But I'm like, it was some of the best training we could have ever had. And not to say that East Coast training is not the best, but we're not going into swamps, we're not going into forests, we're not going into humidity. So
yeah, it's different.
Our units that were in 2-7, we adapted so easily to Iraq weather because it was already over 100 degrees. It was already dry heat.
Yeah.
And it took us about a week to climatize, and we saw units that would get there in 2 weeks. It was still having heat casualties and dehydration and all of this.
Yeah, they're just not used to that harsh desert environment.
Yeah, and we humped. I can't tell you how many 25 miles, 20 miles, 25 miles, and then you kind of come down to 5 miles, and then you go back up to 25 miles, humps, and they were brutal, man. I mean, you're just walking, and you just walk, man. And for people who know the desert, there's a lot of, I don't even know what kind of animal digs holes, but they're underground, so you step on this holes, and you're rolling your ankle every 5 steps.
Oh yeah, it's collapsing, the dirt's collapsing.
The collapse, and it just sucks off sand that, you going up hills, you're walking uphill, but you somehow feel like you're kind of sliding down. Yeah, it was tough, man. But overall, I'm glad I was there. 29 Palms just sucked overall because there was nothing to do. You either are getting tattoos and you go to Applebee's about an hour away, to Joshua Tree where every single Marine's wife works there, so you can't talk to, you can't see, you can't even hang around them because they're somehow related to them, right? So there's no fun there, and
you had to go to Palm Springs, man. That was the place.
Yeah, and at the time I didn't even have my license, and if you were not a Lance Corporal or 21 years or over, you were not allowed to leave the, I think it was like 10-mile radius of the base.
Oh, really?
So they would let you go out of town, because at the time when the unit got back, they start drinking, they start getting DUIs, and more restrictions come along, and there was a lot of, 29 Palms, it's just meth heads out of town. So there was a lot of meth heads fighting with the Marines, and I want to say a lieutenant colonel got
29 Palms.
Got hit by a DUI. Not himself, but
really?
he got killed by a person.
Oh, jeez, that sucked, man.
That's
like the worst when you hear something like that happen.
Yeah,
it's like not even the dude's fault.
Yeah, he was on a motorcycle too, and just got in the green light, and meth head just runs the light, debones them, and
Yeah. For the people listening that have never been to 29 Palms, like, there's literally like packs of meth heads out there that will so the training area, they always say it's like bigger than Connecticut or some shit like that. It's like a massive training area, and there's literally patrols, like the base PMO goes out into the training area, into the deserts on like kind of like patrols, motorized patrols, to find meth heads that are sneaking onto base to steal scrap metal, and they like shit that hasn't. There's like a ton of UXO, like unexploded ordnance out there, and sometimes these dudes will pick up a missile or something and bring it back with. Like, there was a story where some dudes had collected a missile from the training area, took it back to their apartment, and then it blew up their apartment building, or like a portion of their apartment building.
Well,
so it's not like we're disparaging the area for no reason. Like, there are a lot of like meth heads, and it's a desert community. There's some interesting characters that choose to live in the desert.
Yeah, and it's all true, man. It's all true. So,
what was so all these guys, you get to the unit and you're starting to do a workup, right? Or you get to the unit and then these guys come back from deployment, and then shortly after you guys start doing a workup for your next deployment. What kind of lessons did the guys that had come back from their fight in Iraq bring back with them and kind of teach you that was different from what you were taught, like SOP wise, or like, hey, this is doctrine, but we're going to do it this way?
Yeah, that was a good thing about being in a line company, that they just made mistakes in deployment and they learn new stuff, because your enemy is always adapting to what you're doing, and they're like, well, we did this, but now we're going to do it this way, because when we go back, they're going to expect us to do it one way. Yeah. And now we're going to change it up and do it this way. So vehicle searches, before they would just go up to a vehicle and search it, take them out, search the vehicle, make sure it was good. Well, suicide bombers was becoming a thing now in Iraq. On top of sniper threats. Sniper threat was rising from 2004 to 2007. And they're like, just shuffle your feet, keep moving, don't stand in one spot, shuffle and move around, always keep your head up, always look around, see who's looking at you, things like that. And even as the workup came along, they're like, all right, we're doing this, and I'm like, well, there could be a threat for, I don't know, an ambush, for example. We're going to change this up. We were changing everything up to the day we deployed. Yeah. So, we didn't really have an SOP. The normal SOPs were like, where you put your stuff, how you do a search, normal things like that. But we pretty much just free-handed everything. And
so a lot of the tactical stuff was dictated by the platoon level, like leadership.
Right. Yeah, and we were not going to do the same thing another platoon was doing, because enemy's going to see how they do it. They're going to expect us to do the same. So we changed up everything. Every platoon kind of dictated what they did, how they did things, and how they managed their own tactics.
Yeah. Did they tell you what area of Iraq you were going to be going to?
Yeah, they told us they had just gone from, I forget what base was there, right next to Fallujah in 2006, and
TQ?
TQ, yeah, and we went back to TQ, and in that area, that's what they told us. So we started researching. We started looking at maps, and luckily they'd been there. So there's Ramadi on this side. There's canals here. There's the Euphrates here. This is our AO, and it was so little, pretty much like 2 miles one direction, 2 miles the other direction, and we
for your battalion or for your company?
For our company.
Okay.
The battalion went. We had Echo go here. Fox went to somewhere else. So we never really.
Yeah, they were all over.
We would run into them as we would drive into base or on base, or they would need support because they were doing a special mission. So we would get weapons over there, especially weapons we would support more because we were weapons company. We had heavier guns and then. That was pretty interesting, having to go to the other AOs, the areas of operation of all the other units, and how they were living, and realize that we're not the only ones going through hell. And I got to go to Ramadi. Funny story about that. I got to shoot a small at a freaking mosque.
Well, oh, jeez.
We were not supposed.
What for?
Well, we're taking heavy sniper fire there
from the mosque.
From the mosque, and they were like, "Don't do it, don't do it." We're not supposed to. And finally, battalion were like, "Hey, we got shot. Three guys had to get shot in order to get it approved."
That's so crazy, man.
Because
Jesus.
at the time, they didn't want air on station, and to shoot at a tower of the mosque from air would be an insane shot. So they were like, "Let's shoot it from the ground." So we got to shoot a small to it.
How was your shot?
Spot on, man.
Yeah? You're like, what do you mean?
Yeah. What shot? Yeah, so we actually patrolled most of the Zidon area.
Okay.
So we weapons company became a MAC, Mobile Assault Company. And each platoon became a MAP, MAP, Mobile Assault Platoon. So we have MAP 1, MAP 2, MAP 3. And we were mobile assault. So we would go on vehicles and assault something, and mobile became useless because you can't take vehicles anywhere in Iraq. So we would just drive to wherever we're going and then just do foot patrols from there. So
the ID threat at that time was huge.
Huge, and I became the driver. I was the last vehicle on the convoy, and I carried the platoon commander at times, and then I would carry the platoon sergeant. So we have high priority, and then we would stagger, obviously not to have them in the same spot all times. And we would always move at night. And, here I am, PFC. Finally did all our workups, and we're going to Iraq, and we get to Kuwait. We fly over to Kuwait, and then we're boots on the ground, and it's like you get on the plane in Twin and Palms, you get off on the plane at Twin and Palms. It was identical, like climate, everything, the smell. Oh my God, man! I swear they were playing a joke on us, and everything that we worked up to, that we learned, that we practiced, everything was pretty much like put to use now because we were in combat. And it didn't hit me yet because I hadn't had somebody shoot back at me. Everything was dry fire, everything was training and all of this. And so
now it's game time.
So you're doing left seat, right seat, and I'm trying to remember the unit we did that with there in Iraq. So it was left seat, right seat. At first it was our couple sergeants and our platoon sergeant, and then more guys would switch on, and then it's like, all right, well, we need a radio operator from ours because the radio operator from them got sick. Well, we had one radio operator for the platoon, and then our platoon commander didn't want to get rid of him from the CLC and put him in there, and they're like, well, who wants to do it? everybody was looking at each other, and I'm like, I'll do it. I want to go out there,
Yeah.
So first patrol, I'm the only boot out there. Put on the radio that I barely know stuff about, and doing my comm checks, and got my rifle. I don't have my assault gear yet because we're just doing basic patrols. I'm out there, and I'm like, this is it, man. This is what I signed up for, and all of this. Just do your first patrol, and your heart's pounding every second of it, and then you realize that just hot, man. Just walking in 125-degree weather, and it's miserable. You're thirsty. You're tired, and everything just smells of crap. And, the people are out there just looking at you, and you don't know who's the enemy because there's no uniforms to look out for. It's kind of scary, man. As your first,
it's a stressful situation when you're in something like that where there's the unknown surrounds you, and especially if it's your first deployment, and you're a new guy, and you go there, and all your training up to that point is like, hey, man, that pile of trash in your training is like probably an IED. Like, look for piles of trash. Look for this. Look for that. And then you get over there, and like there's piles of trash everywhere. You're like, holy shit, there's IEDs all around us, or could be. Like, you realize some of the training is just so it seems like it's there to scare you into being more attentive when you're out on patrol, which is you should be, obviously. But some of the things they tell you, like, hey, look out for piles of trash. It's like when you go to a third world country, you just can't assume every pile of trash is an IED, or you never go anywhere or do anything.
Yeah, and there's trash everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah.
There's trash piled up 6 foot high everywhere. So kind of leading up to that as well, we got to do some kind of off-site training there in Twin Palms. We got to go to Camp Elton for about a month to do division school, so I don't know if that's still a thing.
Yeah. It was when I left 2 years ago.
Yeah, and we got to do the foreign weapons class. Only the assaultmen got to do it, though. Assaultmen and like platoon sergeants, I want to say. The foreign weapons course. What else? I had written it down, so I wouldn't remember.
What kind of weapons did you get to use at the foreign weapons course?
Obviously everybody uses the AK, and then they teach you about the Dishka and the all of the snipers variations they had. Man, I'm trying to even remember. The Dishka, there was the
PKM machine gun, where you have to hand load the rounds into the brass and stuff like that.
Yeah, and things like that. We got to shoot an RPG, and
really? That's sick.
Yeah, they wanted us to kind of listen and learn what the round coming out, and kind of be mindful of what it sounds like, because you have that split second to react to it. To RPG round.
Literally like a split second. They move quickly.
Yeah, and pretty much just to hit the deck, because if you're doing foot patrols, you can hit the deck, and I'm like, they're so deadly, and they were such a high threat out there as well. And so we got to do that out in.
What was it? Before you move on, what was it like compared to shooting a small? So you've obviously, as an assaultman, you've shot AT4s, you shot smalls, and now you shot RPGs. What of the three, like, can you kind of give like the differences between the three, and like which one you thought was the better weapon?
Well, RPG is rocket propelled. Pretty much, there's an explosion, shoots the rocket, and it just goes until it hits something. And there's, the way it's shaped, the tip will set off the explosion. So that's why there's sometimes you have different variations of it. Sometimes you have time delays. So that's when you hear stories of somebody getting an RPG on them because they hit. I don't know if you've ever heard stories like that. We had somebody from a unit, not 27, but the unit that was there in Iraq. An RPG hit their Humvee, went through the armored Humvee, and it ended up on the guy's side, and it didn't explode. And they had to somehow send him over to wherever he went, and they removed it at the operating room. That was kind
I
of
don't know if
interesting.
it's that specific incidents that I heard about, but I know what you're talking about. And there was one where that happened. It went through, and the RPG was stuck in the guy's side,
Yeah,
and they basically took him next to the operating area where they normally would operate on you, and they put him outside, and the doctors were all flacked up and did surgery on the guy and removed with an EOD tech right there.
yeah,
Removed this live RPG from the dude's
RPG. Yeah,
like side and pulled it out of him, and then went and probably blew it up, but saved the guy, which
yeah,
is totally insane to think about. That huge ass football rocket can like go into you and not kill you.
yeah. And I, but I'm like, I heard of instances, so not just that one. I've heard of many
Yeah.
that had happened. So that's a RPG. It's pretty much a gas explosion, shoots pretty much a grenade, and it could destroy an armored vehicle. It could.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's tank bunker busters as well, and there's the anti-personnel that could explode in the air and just kind of send shrapnel all over the place. But those are kind of rare. But and then you have the small, which by far it's my favorite, because you have the loudest weapon in the Marine Corps in your in your shoulders, and it's this several stage rocket, and the rocket comparison to a missile, a rocket just goes out until it hits something or it runs out of fuel. A missile can be guided, and that's when the toes and laser guided and all that stuff, because they can even change course at times. But this MAW is just the most badassest thing you can ever shoot, because you're shooting this to destroy a tank from your shoulder, and it's not just gonna make a hole and kind of disable it. It's gonna blow the shit up. And they tell you, you dry fire, you practice. Finally get to live shooting, and I got to do that in. Was that in Camp Pendleton, I want to say? And I was surprised they let them shoot something so loud, so aggressive in Camp Pendleton, because they never do. And this thing just shoots and engulfs you on fire from behind you, and it's this massive fireball, and the whole ground shakes, and it's just this rocket about to make somebody's day just all kinds of bad mad. And and just to say I've done that in combat, it's awesome, man.
That's wicked, dude. That's wicked that I've never gotten to shoot a small. That would have been something I would have really enjoyed, I think.
Yeah, and it takes a little bit of training, because you got.
Does it have a delay? Is it one of those things where like you pull the trigger and like it has like a slight delay between when you hit the button to shoot and it launches, or is it like immediate? What I'm getting at is like, do you have people that pull the trigger and kind of react, get that jump because they think it's going to explode and then throw it off target? Is that a thing?
Well, I mean, we train for that, and we do dry fires that you click and they make the sound over like computer sound.
Yeah.
Because a rocket is not going to shoot out like like out of your rifle, for example. It starts slow. So when you click, the reaction is immediate, but the round hasn't left the barrel. I guess if I can call it a barrel muscle. It has not left the muscle yet. It takes, a millisecond to get out, but it's not like a rifle that you just feel the recoil. This one, you're shooting, and you literally feel the rocket push you down.
The weight shift.
Because the weight's shifting forward, so you gotta really brace yourself for that weight shift. And that's pretty much the only delay that there is of the round traveling through the tube. That's pretty much it.
That's wicked, dude.
Once it's going down range, it's fast.
Yeah. So now back to Iraq. What kind of threats did you guys have in that area where you were at? Where did you said were you working out of TQ, or were you working in like Habbaniyah?
We were working out of TQ. And we we would just kind of resupply and go out for about a week, 10 days or so. And just, we never were really on base, really. We would just resupply and go back out. We were on the little outposts.
Yeah,
out
patrol
and about,
bases and stuff out in town.
Yeah, and...
What kind of threats were you guys facing at that time?
Well, IED was, I want to say, as big as snipers. Snipers were pretty much like, you're not going to see it coming, you're just waiting for it. And at least
that sucks.
on IED, I got to go through the training for IED detection, kind of like the EOD goes to. And I got to train on the Battalion, the metal detector.
Oh, yeah, the Valen.
Yeah. Battalion, and I got to do some ID recognition, what to look out for in a vehicle, and mounted, dismounted, and high ground, low ground, and that was part of being an assaultman. It's you're breaching, and you got that threat of going through a threshold and being secondary IDs inside, outside, and in the compound. So, I kind of was aware of 360 around me, day and night, and I was even issued the Gerber, the non-ferrous one, the non-conductive Leatherman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To be able to, if I need be, to be able to diffuse an ID if it came down to it.
Dude. And you're like, how old are you? 19?
At the time,
at this time,
I had just turned 18.
So you're 18, and they're like, here's your non-conductive, multi-tool so that you can defuse bombs. While your buddies are back home probably fucking partying it up and doing stuff, and you're out here like, all right, I'm glad I got my tool here that won't accidentally blow up the bomb,
But you know what? You're 18-year-old. You're in that mindset of thrill, and I didn't even think anything back home. I'm doing my job. The job has to get done, and I'm doing the job. I'm not gonna risk 3-4 guys. I'd rather injure myself. It's a weird mentality as a Marine, but I'd rather put my life in danger knowing that I did my job than having 2-3 guys from a daisy chain ID go down and it's my fault because I didn't do my job.
That was a huge Iraq thing, the daisy chained IEDs, where they would daisy chain like 4 or 5 or more 155 rounds packed with whatever explosives they had. I'm glad I didn't have to run into that threat in Afghanistan. It was all HME there, but fuck, man, that's crazy because that shit would just demolish a vehicle or demolish a squad that's out on a patrol and everything.
Oh, yeah. Actually, going back to like the left seat, right seat, when I came in there, like I said, I volunteered for the first patrol out, and we're walking, and I got my, it was a good 5-mile walk, and I'm tired, thirsty. I just want to go back, and it's midday, and I'm carrying this radio. The Harris radio weighs what, good 15 pounds or so.
Maybe, you probably had a 119 then, right?
Yeah, I think so, and I got the 10-foot whip on, so it's wobbling you around, so your back hurts, and you got spare batteries. And we're maybe not even a quarter mile, man. I could see the house we were staged at, 500 yards at most. And as we were about Main Street, making a left into the long driveway that was in, like, this rich dude's house. Not a palace, but it was a big house. First time in my life, I'll never forget what a round that snaps in between you and your buddy that's in front of you sounds like.
Dude. Because
now we're taking fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I never believed in muscle memory, none of that crap. I just my seniors telling me bullshit to do shit. Muscle memory took over. Your adrenaline will kick in. Your every instinct. If you do your work will come in. Your muscle memory to everything will come in. I remember that snap. 2 seconds later, like pretty much a burst of RPK, I want to say. It sounded like RPK came between me and the guy that was in front of me, turned left. So I was kind of I guess, 10 feet away from him. So these rounds came between us. He took a knee. I took a knee. Started turning fire. I got the radio, so I got a return fire. Called for, we're so close to the house to where called back to the COC, tell them we're on fire. They spotted where it's coming from. They returned fire with I want to say they had a 50 cal on the roof. They had a 50 cal on the roof because the 50 cal starts going off and the 240's going off and everybody's shooting back. And there I am on the radio, one knee, boot. I
made it.
I did my job, And
that's cool, man.
I don't know. I just went out there to see what it was like.
So you guys are on patrol, and this is the left seat, right seat. And for those who don't know that term, that's what we say when we're like doing a turnover with another unit, and we'll do like a patrol. It'll be a mixed patrol of the old unit and the new unit, so that they can kind of point out areas, problem areas, or stuff. Just point out things that they've learned over time. That's what left seat, right seat is. So you're out on patrol. You get contact right or contact left or whatever it is, contact from this direction. And then you guys go into your immediate reaction drills, and then you start getting mutually supported from you start getting supporting fire from the patrol base. Is that what you're saying? So you basically walked into kind of like a hasty ambush, and then you guys were returning fire, and then also getting support from the machine guns. Okay.
Yeah, and just all instincts kicked in, and it was. Your adrenaline's high, but you still got to be smart about it. You got to control that adrenaline because adrenaline will make you do stupid stuff sometimes, man. And sure enough, I was taking a knee on the high road, so my sergeant told me to come down kind of on a ditch pretty much. That's when me and the sergeant, I'm trying to remember what unit that was. I can't remember. He took over the radio. I was kind of like just keeping a lookout. They took, a couple bursts at us, and then they took off in their little pickup trucks. But the guy that was right in front of me took a round through the thigh, and he kind of like dragged himself over to that ditch, and the sergeant's like, "Hey, put pressure and freaking put a tourniquet on him." And there I am, like wide-eyed, like, "Fuck, now I got to do this,"
Was this guy from your unit or the old unit?
Oh, he was our unit, and it was one of the guys that was only there for the 120 days that they're on the extended.
Oh, no way!
The guys that are EASing. So the first patrol, there's this guy gets hit. His name was Devin Black, pretty cool guy, and he's pretty chill about it. There's no blood; it was all muscle wound. And
that's funny. He's pretty chill about taking a shot to the leg. It's whatever, guys.
He's on his back, like chilling, because we're all done with the patrol. We're tired. He's like, "Looks like I'm going home early, guys." The kind of dark humor we start talking about. And somehow I put a bandage on him, put a tourniquet. They removed the tourniquet because he was bleeding, and then all of that, and I want to say it took about 3 hours. Got to call the helo. Got to talk to the guys in the helicopter. This is all on my first patrol, man. And I'm the one on the radio. And
you're not even a radio operator or anything.
And I'm not even a radio operator. And I'm out there, and they're like, "All right, boot, go throw the smoke out there." So here I am making a freaking run into an open field, throwing a couple smoke grenades, and running back. And then, the smoke comes on, and here comes this helo, comes down, picks up this guy, takes off. Like, all right, we're walking back to our little base. And we walk back to the house, and I'm like, "Man, that just happened." Everybody's like, "Yeah, first boot to get his combat action." And I thought it was interesting because it took maybe about another month for us to get, somehow it just died down for a little bit. We didn't get any engagements after that for a good solid month.
Really?
So
I wonder if they knew that you guys were ripping out, because that's something they kind of keep track of rotations. So I wonder if they knew that, and they were giving an attack just to give you that "Hey, we know you're here" kind of thing.
Yeah, and they know. I don't know how they know, but they know. They know you're they know you're a Marine unit. They know what kind of Marine unit you are. They know you're not Army, because Army is known as patches, as their code word is patches when you hear the chatter over the radios.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, Marines, no shoot, And they tell you to hold fire sometimes because they know the Marines will not hold back. And
Yeah, they're just going to like, oh, we're taking contact from the right. Everyone turn and lay down hate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was my first ever combat experience I've ever had in country.
Man.
And it was intense, man. And, I'm shaking after coming back and adrenaline's going down. And I'm like, man, this is what I signed up for. And I got another six months of this.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm like,
day one. Day one, you're probably like, damn, is every day going to be like this?
So after that, everybody started volunteering to be the radio operator. And, they were like, nah. At the time, since I was, like I said, I was a non-citizen at the time, my last name, maternal and paternal, were, like every Hispanic's two last names in a name team. So it's Lara Orozco, and it's all one word, so nobody could pronounce it. So my nickname out in the Marines was Roscoe, Rosco, like Roscoe Pico. Nice. And so that was my nickname, and they're like, good job, Roscoe, and all of this, and I ended up getting a NAM from that day, from being able to collectively suppress the enemy and call for support from our own unit and be able to call the medevac and things like that. So
did they give you one with the V device on it?
Yeah. All of my awards have been with the V. So I just thought, you're in combat, you get an award that comes with the V in it, but apparently a V is very prestigious. Not everybody gets a V on anything.
Yeah. So. Yeah, just, for maybe people that aren't in the military or don't know, it just signifies that it was so they've changed it too now. So it was a signification that this was people say it's for valor, like the V stands for valor, and maybe it does. I don't know if that's 100% true, but it does mean that it was for an act that occurred in a combat situation, like you were, you're getting shot at, you got a wounded dude, and you're doing something. You're not a radio operator. You're not supposed to be the guy doing the LZ brief and throwing smoke out and stuff like that. You can do it, obviously, but that's not your role. So stepping outside of your lane to do something like that's pretty cool. And it's awesome though that the ability for the pilots as well to work with someone that's not able, that's not trained in doing that and still making it all work out. Like those medevac pilots are, they do whatever they can to get to the right spot, get on the ground.
I think I lost you in audio real quick.
So anyway, I want to continue on. I don't remember exactly where we were at. I know we were talking about Iraq. It was your first deployment. Is there anything else of note that you want to talk about from that deployment?
Well, yeah. Like I said, that was my first mission. Pretty much my first patrol. It stayed pretty quiet for a good 3 weeks, almost a full month, and intel just says that the insurgents kind of wait to see how the new unit operates, how we react. We will get a pop shot here and there to see how we react, but no actual engagements. Other units were getting engagements, around the area, but ourselves, we kind of stayed quiet for a little bit in that Zidon area. And it kind of started picking up once we started getting more consistent attacks. Like they would actually stay there for more than like 3 seconds. Yeah. And but they'll be pretty far away. They'll take off. And then things picked up once, I want to say it was June hit of 2007. It was just it would have been west of Fallujah. We would take care of an area, an intersection of the 23 and the 611, I want to say, or the 11. Okay. And it was pretty much where a river met another river, and it was kind of like they knew we weren't going to follow them because we would have to cross over a bridge and vehicles. And if we crossed on foot, they would just kind of choke us. It would be a good choke point for us to just be in the open on a bridge. Which couple of times they actually engaged us pretty heavy from a kind of a berm area. They looked down into that bridge, and we had no concealment, and we fall into a river, full PPE. That's pretty dangerous.
Yeah. Was this area more farmland then?
Yeah.
And not urban?
Very open. Just flat ground, no buildings. Very, very, very open. Houses were very far apart, and we would just set up kind of hasty ECPs, BCPs there in that intersection to kind of control the people leaving and coming in to the city. And let's see. We had a pretty crappy lieutenant, first lieutenant, and who never really
crappy because he was just so junior and didn't know anything, or he just was a very good leader.
Well, he overall everything was bad. Never went on patrols, just commanded everything. Bad judgments, things like that. He thought
one of those guys.
He thought he knew everything. When our sergeants will tell him like, "Hey, we can't do this, we can't go there," it would be like, "No, it's my saying. It's I'm the lieutenant. I say what goes," kind of deal. But he will never go out with us. He went on one patrol the entire deployment. So my sergeant, they would bump heads all the time, and one day bombs were thrown around, and it was like, all right, well, tomorrow you're gonna go 10 miles out, check out on this bridge, and that summer of Iraq, it was like 130 degrees. So we went out 10 miles, look at this bridge, and going out there, it was just miserable. We're kind of checking on IEDs on the roads, things like that, and check on this bridge to see bad guys coming through. But on our way back, man, it was like not even the last mile, maybe half a mile before we got back to the house we were staying in. From what I can recall, it was canals that were dried up because it was midsummer. I remember going down and up over them because we didn't want to walk on the road. And right at the bottom of, I want to say it was the second or third one, I stepped on some sort of landmine. Some sort of buried IED. All I remember, everything went dark, and I could hear people talk, very muffled. Obviously, I was pretty out of it. Worst pain ever. Obviously, every bone hurts, everything hurts. You're just on fire. I kind of came to a little bit as the corpsman was talking to me. I just didn't see anything on the ground, and it looked like it had rained maybe a few days back, so everything was kind of like washed out.
Yeah, and it probably smoothed out any kind of marks that were there and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember coming back too when I'm mid-flight in the helicopter, and obviously I'm medevaced, and I went back out, and apparently I got flight out to Balad, the Air Force Base out there. I was bleeding pretty bad from the ears, just internal concussion. I couldn't hear anything. Had a piece of shrapnel came out from under me and kind of cut me up. Got a scar here, and my knees swelled up and got bruises everywhere. But no limbs were damaged, and I got very lucky because several weeks before, several guys had stepped on identical IEDs and lost 1-2 limbs, even up to 3 limbs. And just the EOD guys, when they went back and checked it out, they said the previous rain had kind of compacted dirt to where the concussion of the explosion got muffled, and I got launched in the air pretty good, but nothing major, no damages there, and I think that was kind of like a turning point for me. I've seen guys get injured. I've seen damages and kind of helped patch up guys, but nothing really happened to myself. I had close calls, but there at Balad, I was there for about 5 days, and when I got there, I was obviously out. What woke me up was this procedure, medical procedure, where they probe you anally with your hands to relieve internal bleeding, and it hurts. So that woke me up. But at the same time, there was a chaplain holding my head, praying over me.
Oh, fuck. That's not what you want to wake up to.
Waking up to pain like that, like 5 or 6 nurses, doctors, and the chaplain praying over me, I'm just thinking my body's in pieces. So I'm breaking out on the table. They put me back out. And, I'm butt naked there. And obviously, I can't see nothing out of my eyes. And everything's still blurry. Can't hear anything. Everything's just muffled. And they put me back under. And I wake up the next day. My face is still swollen. They just stitched me up. But I'm kind of coming back to. And it happened to be about nighttime. Just in the evening, because remember it being dark. And the Army had casualties where I was at, it was a tent and sections of tents. And I was in this section of a tent where it was just empty beds. And I remember the helicopter landed, moves the tent around. You can hear screaming and yelling and obviously people crying. And as they rolled these Army guys in, and I'm there pretty much paralyzed, and I can only see out of one eye, just kind of like cocked to one side, and they rolled these guys in, and they're doing massive trauma to these guys. They're trying to patch them up. One guy had no legs. One guy was like just in pieces, and I'm there just paralyzed, not being able to move and just watch this guy's like the double amputee guy ended up passing away, and I just kind of watched it. So I'm like, I just laid there, and it was so painful just to lay there and not be able to help, because it was they're like running between these Army guys, and they're tearing close up. They're trying to like keep them from bleeding out, and I'm just laying there, and I'm like, man, I wish I could have helped. And even till this day, I'm like, man, it was just like felt so helpless. But it's.
But you were those guys like a couple days before,
Yeah.
or that day, or you were those guys. That's so it's not like. Yeah, dude, I get it though. You want to help, you want to do something. You see that they need assistance, and you just have to lay there and watch. I mean, God, man, that's a horrific scene to imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it was like to actually have been there. But
it's the exact same scene from Black Hawk Down, where they're trying to cut that clog that artery. Catch it.
Oh yeah.
And there's like 5 guys mounted on top of this guy trying to put as much pressure they can, but they can't. They just can't do it. They can't stop it, and just literally waterfalls of blood coming out of these metal racks, carts they put you in, and it's just like everywhere, man. And I always come back to that, and it's kind of tough. But
I bet, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing something like that though, because what you're doing is painting a realistic picture of what war is like. You know what I'm saying, and the results of it, because it's very sanitized version of it you see on TV. Like there's some documentaries that get it pretty in depth and can show you some stuff, but I don't think the masses really understand the things that it could go through. That's scene you just painted, like that is why I would never have wanted to be in the medical field.
Yeah.
I just don't think I could deal with that kind of, that just day in and day out in a combat zone. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and one thing I noticed, I don't blame the medics and doctors, because, I I guess the main chief came in and was like, yeah, we're going to call it. And, the guy had bled out enough. And they called him, they called it and put a sheet over him. And here comes like 2 junior Navy guys and just mop up all the blood. And the chief's like, all right, clean it up and keep going. And they just go about their day. And it's...
Yeah, clean it up and get ready for the next one.
They're so numb about it. But they do such great work. And shout out to all those guys who deal with anything trauma, from the corpsmen to flight medics, dust off, who was the ones that picked me up, and they deal with all of that. And they go in hot zones to pick us up, just to get us, hopefully save our lives. And and that happened. And I talked to a chaplain there, the one that was there, and he's like, it's all we can do is just pray for each other. I'm not religious at all, and just try praying this and that. I never did it, but I was like, man, I'm so unlucky. But then a lot of people are like, man, you're really lucky, because all these guys, small explosions, they losing, super heavy amputations they can't even survive from, because they end up bleeding out. But I had compressed kneecaps. Apparently it's a thing. I had no idea. And
I've never heard of that. Yeah.
And it's pretty much where your cartilage that cushions your main bones just gets pushed to the side or crushed so much that it's just not there. So and I had like several bulging discs and things like that. But they flew me back out to TQ, and I was in crutches for like a couple of days, and obviously they're already taking a lot of contact out there, and I'm like, man, I want to go back out, work with the guys. So I managed to kind of tell the corpsmen that I was good, which I wasn't, because I was still stitched up and I had bandage on my face, still swollen. And about 7 days later, I was back out on patrol. And
I cannot believe you didn't get flown out of country.
Yeah,
I can't believe you turned around and went back out. That's crazy.
I didn't want to just leave my guys, and I'm like, I'm just a boot. I cannot imagine if I was like a platoon leader or squad leader or platoon sergeant doing that. And I'm like, nah, there's no way I'm leaving just like this. So yeah, I was out there. I was hurting for a couple weeks. Like going out on patrol, like my knees will swell up so bad that I would just be popping Motrins like every 5 minutes. Yeah. And
when you came back, did they? I mean, obviously, hey doc, I'm good. I'm gonna get back out to my dudes. Once you got back out to your dudes, did they understand that you were still pretty injured and that they needed to, like, you're just not right back in the rotation?
Yeah. They gave me a little break, but I was the only breacher in the platoon, so nobody else could do my job. Somebody else would take the shotgun in case they needed it. But if something else was needed, nobody could do my job. So, they will send a radio operator out there, but, they would put me on fire watch and, do roof watch, whatever. But I still went out once or twice during the day and stuff.
How many days between you getting blown up to you going back out on your first patrol?
7 days. The day I got back, I went on my first patrol.
So you got blown up, and a week later you were out on patrol?
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah, and
that's insane.
My lieutenant didn't want me out there, but I was like, hey, I can do roof watch all you want, but nobody else can do my job. And, sure enough, they kept me out one day, and next day they had kind of a couple suspicious IDs that pretty much they just had to sit and wait until EOD came. So, and,
which takes forever.
Yeah, that just puts on that squad babysitting an ID. The other squad can go out, kind of work at a standstill, when at the time I could have either defuse it, blow it up, or kind of just get rid of it. So
I'm surprised they were actually even letting you diffuse stuff. Just as a regular old infantry dude, or were you just kind of doing it?
Well, I was doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
Later on, the IEDs got bigger when I would realize that it's not just a 155 with, a fuse or remote control, whatever it was. Then we realized it was 10 155s and a jug of diesel and, anti-tank mine under it. That's the stuff I couldn't do, obviously. We definitely had to wait for EOD. Things got very intricate. The no metal pressure plates. Those got crazy.
Sorry.
And the very minimal equipment they had to make these bombs was just mind blowing because they changed. We would up our game, they would up their game, and they'll counter. We'll counter IED, and they would just respond so quickly.
They're very innovative.
Yeah.
They're very innovative. They in Afghanistan they started. They didn't want the locals to get blown up. Obviously, that's not good for PR, right? For Taliban PRs to be blowing up locals. So they started making pressure plates that had I think if I remember correctly, it was a pressure plate, but the top was actually two plates. And the width of each plate, neither one was wider than the standard tire, right? Or it was something like that. It was basically like only U.S. military vehicles had tires wide enough to go over it and set it off. Like if you were just in a regular passenger car, you could run it over and you wouldn't set it off because your tire wasn't wide enough to make contact across the entire thing.
Oh yeah.
And so it's shit like that, but it's still made out of like two pieces of wood and like a strip of metal, and stuff like that. But it's war causes innovation.
It was
good
crazy.
and bad.
Yeah. And then, so I went back out, and I wasn't 100%. I'm not gonna lie, I was not 100%. I was hurting out there, and I didn't notice it because night vision, you're using one eye, but I kind of lost vision on my left eye that was injured, and I didn't notice that until I was back home, and that's what made me go into a med board and not deploy again. But and later in June was our like heavy action month because I don't know from where insurgents decided to steal dump trucks. Big bright orange dump trucks. They're easy to spot. I have no idea why, but came over the radio. It's a heavy vehicle. It's something they can ram the FOBs with or the main gates. So we were kind of on the lookout for that, and I'm like, all right, it's a slow vehicle. Nothing can, it's very easy to spot. So we kind of didn't think anything of it until we were at a small little hasty place. We took a house, and we were about 13 days out, and we were already the next day we were going to extract the next early morning before the sun came up. That evening, the day before, Fox Company, I want to say was returning to TQ, and they were crossing over an overpass on the highway, and the dump truck drove underneath the bridge and exploded. It was about 5,000 pounds. Luckily, there were no deaths. There were several injured. Obviously, the vehicles fell. A couple passenger vehicles that were next to the dump truck actually did the bridge collapse, and one got just obliterated. But there was no American deaths, luckily. And it's just like an American overpass. It's two lanes on top, and big. We've all seen it, but
they just blew it up.
But to people who've never been out there, the highway system is pretty modern. It's two lanes on each side, and there's a median in the middle, and big, gigantic concrete pillars. It was just all came down, and we were about 2 miles away from when that happened, so it blew the windows out of the house we were in.
Jeez.
And we were about to pick up and go to respond and at least provide QRF, but we were told to stand down and to stand in place just in case there was movement from either direction where we were, try to do an ambush to them, or pretty much we became the northwest element to protect that area.
Okay.
Because now with the bridge blocking that had collapsed, nobody could come through. So we were just luckily we were there to provide security in the northwest section. And I want to say
that's crazy, man.
It took about another week. The vehicles that were over the overpass kind of fell down. There was broken bones.
What kind of vehicles?
At the time, they were all Humvees. There were guys on a high back who obviously got thrown out when the vehicle fell. A couple broken legs and arms, but
dude, riding in a high back and then getting launched out of that's insane.
Yeah, and that was several casualties there. No deaths, but I can't imagine. And it was, they had air on station just in case, and medevacs were lifting everybody up. And within a week, that bridge was cleaned up, and we were still stuck in that house, and we hadn't been resupplied in that whole week. Plus the 13 days we were already there, so we were low on food, water, and stuff. And they're like, all right, I think day 19 came, and they're like, we're going to resupply you guys. So here comes a convoy, resupplies us with water and food. No, I take that back. They gave us MREs, which we didn't need. They didn't have enough water for themselves. We didn't need ammunition, but the only thing we needed was water, and they wouldn't give it up. So the next thing they could give us was care packages. So we got a bunch of Girl Scout cookies and winter socks in the middle of summer. So
there's no shortage of Girl Scout cookies on a deployment.
No, of course not.
If you're at a base, there's Girl Scout cookies everywhere.
Yeah, so we kind of pretty much had to call the battalion and be like, hey, we got to get back. We have no water. And so we're like, all right, just hang on. We hang on for like another almost, not 36 hours, to where we started boiling, nasty, but we started boiling canal water.
Oh my God.
We filtered it as much as we could. We boiled it. Obviously, dysentery said no. So yeah, there were several guys that went down with dysentery, myself included. And
how messed up is it? How messed up is it that the U.S. military has the good enough logistics to have a KFC on Al Assad or something like that, but they can't get water to the dudes that are out on like patrol bases and stuff?
Yeah, it's
like, what the fuck? Where are the priorities, man?
Yeah,
like that is insane that you are forced to drink canal water because you can't get resupplied, and then the dudes that are resupplying you don't even have enough water for themselves. Like what? Like that's insane.
It happened to be it happened to be another unit that was stuck in the middle somewhere, just passing by. So they were kind of in the same boat. So we don't blame them.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's crazy. When I was in Balat for those 5 days, I had no clothes. All my clothes got ripped off. So all I got was silkies from the Wounded Warrior Battalion and a T-shirt. And there I am walking with the lieutenant that they paired me up with, so we could be like battle buddies. And so we're walking around Balad in shorts and a T-shirt, free tennis shoes we got from, I think, it was a Wounded Warrior Battalion, I want to say, just donations. And we went and had, was it Burger King and Pizza Hut right next to a Starbucks.
It's fucking ridiculous.
And we're just...
It's crazy.
That's insane, yeah. So...
You know, and you would think like people that haven't been there would imagine like, man, that must be good living then, you know, like, so it's not though. Like when I was with 3-6 and we were down in Marja, I got sent up to Leatherneck for a week, and which would be like going to maybe Al Assad. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you ever made it out to Al Assad or not, but nothing crazy. But anyway, I went from like no running water. We went for a month of eating First Strikes, those giant MREs that you're supposed to have like one a day or something.
Yeah.
From that to going to Leatherneck and this major base and walking around, going to Green Bean Coffee.
Yeah.
Like I can go to, like you said, like a little fast food places they have set up, or the chow halls are like amazing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I could not wait to leave there to go back because I was just like, it's a completely different world. It's like being garrison, man. Like people are correcting you for your uniform or like shit like that. You're like, dude, which they do. I mean, don't get me wrong. They do that down at the patrol bases and stuff too. They'll say something to you about your uniform. But like this kind of place is just, I don't know, man. It's just a different world. It's a completely different world. And and back to what I was saying before though, the fact that we can have that, where we have chow halls staffed by foreign people that are making like amazing food and all that stuff. But your war fighters on that end can't get, water resupply.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. And now SIF actually, part of your gear draw, or mine was, I think when I moved out to California from the East Coast and I got a new SIF draw, there was a water straw in it, or not a water straw, but a filter, like an inline filter you can plug in your Camelback.
Oh, I wish
to filter
had that.
water like that.
Like a Life Star or something like that. Yeah, I wish we would have had that.
Yeah, man, that's crazy drinking canal water because that's just sewage and runoff, and that's not potable at all.
Oh yeah, no. That was by far like the most we were out. I want to say it totaled 21 days, and we got back. Obviously, the first thing we did was hit the chow hall just to get turned around because our camis were like one solid color. And
see,
we're like, all right. Let's go shower and wait for the chow hall. And it was just a bad day overall. Like coming back to one of the main bases was just more of a headache because then showers are not available because all the permanent personnel there, it's showering every day, twice a day. So just getting one of those trailer showers, it's hard. And then having go out and eat and try to make a phone call or whatever it is, and waiting in line for the 10 phones that there is, you losing sleep or food time, and then you're going back out in 24 hours. So I'm like, might as well just hit out the PX and just get stuff for patrolling, then get the vehicles ready to go back out. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of guys get a bad taste in their mouth about other dudes that never like go out, have never gone outside the wire, or never, anything like that, because it's like, dude, you're living in, you just get used to living in a shitty world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like bathing with baby wipes and eating MREs or like relying on care packages, for food and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a completely different world. And then when you go to a base and all it seems like is people are just, trying to hinder the mission instead of like, hey man, I'm just trying to get food and like resupply so we can keep doing our thing.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you better go shower and change your uniform first. Like, shut up, dude. Like, this is a combat zone, man. I don't know if you realize that. I know the line for KFC is long, but fucking, this is still this is like a combat zone. And some people are going out there and doing stuff.
Yeah.
And that's no hate on people that worked on a FOB, because I worked on a FOB my first deployment and I hated it. I never left TQ. I went from TQ to Al Assad via plane. Like, I never went outside the wire at TQ or anything like that. And it's no hate on those guys. But what I hated, even as a guy that was there, because I didn't want to be a fucking mechanic, and I was over in Iraq, as a mechanic, while dudes are out on missions, they wouldn't even let me go out to be support at one of the FOBs, like forward FOBs, they would send a reservist. But what I hated were the guys that were bitching about living on camp. They're like, dude, my AC's not working. Oh, the internet is down. It's like, dude, there are dudes out there that are fucking on patrols and shit, and you are bitching because your AC's down. Or what, man, the thing that made me the most mad would be guys that would complain when we would go into River City, which for those that don't know, River City is what it's called, River City, because it's like restricted communications, because someone is killed. So someone in that AO has been killed. So they put the camp in River City, meaning all communications to the outside world are shut off. That way the family could be notified via official means that a death had occurred, rather than through like Facebook or something like that, which happens. It's happened. Anyway, and guys would complain about it. Like, oh, we're in fucking River City. Oh, for like 2 or 3 days. It's like, oh, this is bullshit. And it's like, dude, someone fucking died. It's like, do you not realize like the reason is because there's someone fucking died, and your complaint is that you can't get on the internet? It's like, it's just a different world, man. It's and I've seen both sides, and it's, it's, I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah, luckily our headquarters battalion, the ones that stayed in the FOB, they knew exactly when we were going to be there, so they would already had everything prepared for us to come back. Mechanics already have all the bays open for our vehicles to come in, get worked out. We would have pop shots or sniper shots that would shatter the glasses on either the turret or the vehicles. They would just be ready to switch them out, or new tires, whatever PM needed to be done. Same with gear, I got snagged on a tree once, and like my pack ripped open on the side, so all my stuff started pulling out. I kind of got my sewing kit, patched it up, and right away I went in there, and they're like, "Oh, here's a new one." That we didn't have a problem as to like, oh, they were giving us a problem. No, they were actually doing their job. They actually were supportive, and they're like, "Hey man, I got this on a care package." They got care packages too, and be like, "Hey, here's some smoke, here's some beef jerky, here's this, here's that," and they'll be like, "Here, you guys take it out." So that was really good. And then we're waiting for our vehicle. Hey, how's it going? We'll start striking conversations. They would like to hear the stories and things like that. So that was good.
For sure. I was one of those guys. I was the mechanic on TQ that was over there getting dudes coming in, bringing in. We had a guy they had brought in their Humvee, got hit by an RKG-3, the shape charge, like grenade thing. And we replaced that. We fixed that for him. I think they had a corpsman get hit inside the vehicle, so we fixed that for him. But I was that dude, and I was the guy like, eating up all the stories of what's happening outside there, because it's just a different world.
Yeah, and just as I wouldn't say June was ending, like I said, that lieutenant had no good skills. Let's just put it that way. Our sergeant was in charge of picking the locations for when we would go on a mission. We would take a house, we'll pay the people, and the people will leave either to the neighbors or from other family members' house. And we already had the place. It was kind of in the middle of nowhere, so you could have field of view everywhere. And we've taken over the house before. We knew the people, and they were very accommodating. They would make us food before they left and things like that, because we paid them money. And we were on the move, and out of the blue, our lieutenant goes, "Now we're not taking that house. We're taking this house." And it's a house about 100 feet off the road, surrounded by other houses. So we lose like a good quarter of our view to one direction, and the other side is a gigantic berm right next to the canal. So we can't see over the canal, over that berm. So we're like, "Okay, sir, why this?" "Oh, because we have clear view of the road." That's it. That was his only reasoning. So the sergeants tried to convince him otherwise, and obviously I'm a lieutenant. What I say goes, and fuck you guys, go away, go do your sandbags. Stop digging for the burn pit. And, so we took that house, he said, and I want to say it was our second day there. I took off on foot patrol about 5 a.m. right as the sun was kind of rising. And that was one of my favorite times in Iraq, those sunsets, man. The fog was low, and it was nice and cool, and the sun was just 100 million colors. It was beautiful. And all those people already like working their fields, and I don't know, it took me out of that moment, like it's a war zone. It was that's one thing I remember. And
Taken in the moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we came back from patrol about midday, and this house had several rooms, so I was in one of the back rooms. All of our vehicles were staged in the front yard, facing the road, and there was people on the roof, normal stuff, and at the time we were wearing our flight suits. We were patrolling in flight suits, and nice thing, you can unzip it, kind of tie the arms around your waist, and I took my shirt off because it's soaking wet, and I made a funny joke as my flight suit fell down because I was wearing nothing but silkies, and as I was making a joke about something about showing my ass to the other guys, or they were complaining about me being sweaty, they could smell my ass, something like that. Just the window imploded. It threw me from the window across the room into the wall, and I had no idea what had happened, and everything just covered in dust, and I didn't even hear a bang, and maybe because the explosion was so close to us that didn't hear anything. Everything I got glass all over me because I have no shirt on, and I'm covered in dirt, and it's like 3 seconds of silence as like the dirt settles. There was literally silence. Everybody's in the room because we're about like 4 or 5 guys into this small room, maybe about 10 by 10, and now it's glass everywhere and dirt everywhere. Our corpsman was in that room, and by corpsman I mean he was maybe 5'2", Filipino mafia.
The mafia.
I don't know his name till this day. We just called him Doc Flip.
Jesus.
I do not know why he was assigned to our battalion or anything because he's so small. The petite small.
Yeah.
And
was he a good corpsman though?
Never knew because he did things at the side, and I never patrolled with him because he was from the other platoon. And
okay.
So the 3 seconds of silence just kind of like were broken by screams and people starting to panic because the people on the roof were like, freaking contact, this and that. Everybody starts yelling, but we're waiting to see where we're taking contact from. Well, there's no contact. It was just a suicide bomber on a second dump truck, like the one that hit Fox Company. And what had happened was that this dump truck, usually they gun it and try to go as deep as possible. Well, this guy, got smart, and we were so close to the road that this guy just went 5 miles per hour through the speed bumps, the sandbags, the concertina wire, and something to slow them down as they kind of passed by. But the very last second, he kind of came off the road into the house and blew himself up. And the people on the roof had no idea because he wasn't doing anything bad. He was just driving by. And blew a hole. I think we measured it at 32 feet in diameter, 15 feet deep.
Dang, man.
And the only thing in the hole was the rear axle of the dump truck. And
how far away were you guys from this?
About 100 feet.
Jeez.
So the whole front face of the house. Luckily, we had it was just a mud wall, I want to say it was, that got blown out. That took some of the pressure off. And then our vehicles lined up, took some of that pressure off, and then the actual building, they were strong buildings, cinder block buildings, and knocked the whole front of the building off. So the guys who were in that first room, that wall fell onto them. And then the guys on the roof that were on that side, the roof collapsed, so they fell to the ground. We had one of our corporals that was on the roof on the 240, fell down, broke his arm, and got tangled in sea wire. And that was the worst injury.
Sucks.
That was the worst injury we had, was a broken arm.
Really?
And there were no I don't want to say casualties, but there was no deaths, luckily,
No fatalities. Yeah.
and we had guys crack their heads open with cinder blocks falling on them. So we were in the back room. Out of nowhere, everybody's getting dragged. That's bleeding and shrapnel everywhere, getting dragged to the back rooms. And that's when this tiny little Filipino doctor just, I swear, he was like a ninja, working and patching everybody up. Whatever flak was on the ground, he was popping out their IFAKs and just using t-shirts, and he patched everybody up. We had several guys who had shrapnel to the neck, so we're trying to calm them down. And my respect.
Was he the only medical dude there?
Oh, we had two, and the other one was also doing something on the opposite side of the house, but I didn't want to leave that room because I was like his other set of hands. And as guys came in, I'm over there with water bottles trying to rinse off all the dirt off, people, to try to see what their injuries are. And, just shrapnel wounds, and trying to patch them up, take glass or rock or metal, whatever's on them, and try to pull it out of them and to be able to patch them up. And, this happened at about, I want to say like just about short of noon. We couldn't get air on station. We couldn't get, because our radios were gone, our vehicles were gone. 6 out of the 10 vehicles we had were just destroyed. Obviously, the antennas all got caught by the explosions, so we couldn't get radio signal. The antenna that was on the roof got destroyed. So we're trying to figure out what other ways of comm we could get somebody. And so we were silent for like a long time, and apparently Battalion was trying to figure out what the hell was going on. So we hadn't done a radio check in like 2-3 hours. So
they didn't hear the explosion? Well,
they did. They were trying to get a hold of us to double check. So I think finally, I guess Overwatch, Huey and a Cobra came overhead of us, just kind of did circles, and our radio operator kind of went between trucks and see what was salvageable. It managed to get radio up and finally got a hold of Battalion and did a sit rep. And we were 24 guys in the building, and 19 of us were injured, like physically injured, to shrapnel, whatever it was, broken arm guy, and 13 had to get
broken arm guy.
Yeah, 13 had to get medevaced immediately. So we finally got medevaced. 13 guys out. They send whoever was nearby to just do kind of like because our vehicles were gone, so we couldn't really drive out of there. And plus, there's a gigantic hole in the ground, so we can't really drive through it either. So EOD comes, and they're like our relieving company that comes in, and they're surveying the hole. They're surveying the hole, and they're like, this is about the same one that said over there, Fox Company. It's about 5,000 pounds, and it's you see the shards of orange metal from the dump truck all over the place. And
dude, you guys are so lucky, man. That's so crazy.
And I want to say it was like 4:00. We're running up and down, setting sandbags on the area because we're still worried about a secondary attack, which we got lucky because the machine guns got blown off the roof. If secondary attack would have come, they would have done some good damage because everybody would just kind of stand down in the middle of the day because there's no attacks midday because they pray. And this attack came just right before prayer, and if they would have gotten smart and just started shooting at us, there wasn't even a wall in the front of the house, so they could have just started shooting at the house, and they would have hit somebody. And I lost my rifle that day. I didn't even know what my rifle or flak was. So the bird was coming. We still had people inside the house because we didn't want to take them out into the open field, and they're injured. Someone can't even walk. So they're like, all right, whoever can walk, which is only like 4 or 5 of us, help carry people out. And we had no stretchers. We had nothing. Everything was in the trucks. So fireman carried a guy across the field, came back, carried another guy, like baby cradled somebody, because he was bleeding out from his chest. So I didn't want a fireman carry him. So I cradled him across the field and came back. And then I was running up on the roof, adrenaline's still going. And I'm doing sandbags to try to like fortify the front. And it's only like 10 of us left now. And they're like, hey, you need to get in the helicopter now. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. I got no injuries. And apparently the corpsman, not the Filipino guy, we had another guy from New York, and he's like, hey man, you need to get checked out. And I looked down, and I had blood all over me from carrying guys, so I thought none of the blood was me. But finally my adrenaline went down to where I started feeling pain, and I had a piece of metal about 4 inches long coming out of my thigh, and it was there the whole time. And I never even realized.
Didn't even notice.
No, because it was under my flight suit, so didn't even notice it. And Corman finally took it out, patched me up, and I was like, yeah, I can still walk. And I'm like, I don't need to go in the helicopter. And so I stayed. Like six or seven of us stayed, and we just sat at the house. And at the time, I only had disposable camera, and I took aftermath pictures. And one of the guys who stayed ended up getting killed a few years later in Afghanistan. But I took his picture as he's sitting on the remaining cinder blocks of the blown up wall right next to the crater, and he's kind of looking down, just like morale down, man. That was like a picture to define what like low morale is like, and that picture became the picture that's in his grave now. And yeah, man, it was a lucky day, but it was a bad day, man. It was a punch to the gut, and
I bet.
And to have a whole platoon just go down like that. It was 19 of the guys who were there received Purple Hearts out of the 24, and that's where I lost respect for our lieutenant, because I probably shouldn't be talking crap about him, but I'm going to, because I fucking hate him. He got us into that situation because if we would have been in the original house, we could see a dump truck driving up to us, and two, he was not injured at all. He didn't receive a Purple Heart and stuff, but he was written up.
Oh, really?
And he denied the Purple Heart, made himself badass. But then we learned that once he left us, he went to 223, I want to say it was. As soon as he checked into the unit, he had his Purple Heart ceremony. And,
oh, really?
And so, obviously, 223 saw him as this badass lieutenant that just came back from Iraq and receives his Purple Heart as the first thing they see in him. So, yeah,
well, I mean, I guess that's setting the tone, when you get to a new unit. I won't, if the dude is like snagging up a Purple Heart for injuries that he never received, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't, whatever, if you want to go get it at another unit, whatever, but if you're like legitimately receiving one that you had denied initially, and then you turn around and try to, push to get it sent to you just so you get the benefits of having one or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fucked up thing.
Yeah, because when I was there, you had to be medically evacuated or medically seen in order to qualify for a Purple Heart.
I think that's the general thing, is like being treated by medical personnel.
Right, and even though he wasn't seen medically, apparently he went, on his own, I guess. But we knew he was good. And when we learn about that, that says a lot about a person that just goes and chases medals like that. Especially when it's you're doing the reason why this happened because of you. So.
Yeah, that's tough, man. That's tough. There's two sides to every story. I'm gonna put that out there. Just because I don't know you and I don't know him and I don't know the whole situation. And I'm not saying I believe you. I do believe you. It'd be interesting to hear his side of it, but it's tough for a leader too to like have to choose like the places, stuff like that where you have to go. But if you guys were like actively like, hey man, this is the smart choice and this is why, and you lay out a good reason, and they still deny it and say, well, we're doing this because I'm in charge. You can't respect that.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen to me before. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I know you don't know the guy, but after that, not just myself, but like the whole platoon lost respect to where he would tell us to do something.
I understand.
And we would do it because he's a lieutenant. We did it, but we would start hiding his MVGs because he NJP'd a guy for going up on the roof, leaving his MVGs downstairs. NJP'd him, made him go from
really?
to PFC because he not combat
in country.
So after that, we're like, screw this guy. Like it's the middle of the day. He's not even going to be on watch by the end of, by the time it goes dark. So in country, the NJP this guy and our sergeant, I'm not going to say names, our sergeant took his MVGs and just threw them out in the middle of the desert. So here's our lieutenant walking around in circles by himself in the middle of the desert in Iraq, like doing this, kind of how you do, you zigzag when you do police call. He was police calling the desert looking for his MVGs.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah, I mean,
I was not the only one.
That's better than the stories. That's better than the stories you hear from like Vietnam, where they had an officer that got people hurt or did something, and then they end up killing the officer themselves.
Oh.
Like I don't know, man. It's a fucked up situation, and that's why. That's one of the things I'm. You think about like getting out of the military, and then it's just like I don't want to work for someone, especially in a situation like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to be forced to work with someone that is a moron, and I just have to listen to them because they outrank me.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that was.
I'm smart enough to know to call bullshit, and if I can call bullshit, and then you don't respond to that, and you're like, "This is why we're doing it because I'm in charge, and not because it makes sense," then it's like, like that's just stupid.
Yeah,
especially in an organization like the Marine Corps.
That was my bad taste of, I guess, being in the infantry because. My sergeant, that was a sport tour. He had just re-enlisted. All 4 tours have been to Iraq. And he really, like, this guy was, like, legitimate what the Marine Corps should be. Like, 300 PF tier, overall a good leader. Worked our asses off, but, it paid off. And we hate him for that, but, just the PFC, getting chewed out by your sergeant, but you don't see that as a leadership thing. Later on, you realize, he was chewing me out because I'm not carrying my rifle or I'm not doing this.
Because I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. And, we saw that. And there were more instances other than that SVVIT that happened. He would send us on patrols, outnumbering the enemy. He tried to send a patrol of like 8 guys to an open market in the middle of the day where we know for a fact they're selling guns, and they have like a shooting range in the back of the thing. So I'm like, why would you send us to a market? Where was that at?
Who was this? This was the lieutenant or the sergeant?
The lieutenant. That was in Karma, when Karma was like hot. Like we were not even allowed in Karma.
And he wanted to send a squad into a market that sold arms?
And just to patrol the market. And so, we said no. Like, middle of the day, no way. And he's like, all right, go take over this other house that, was half demolished. And we ended up being there for almost 24 hours. And sure enough, from this market comes this pickup truck. They attacked another patrol that was opposite to us, and we see it all happen because we're between the market and this other unit. We were just kind of doing observation, and I don't think they knew we were there because we went there in the middle of the night, and we were just doing kind of reconnaissance of a certain area that we hadn't pushed out yet. And so these guys come along and drive right in front of the house, and so we pop out. A couple guys get down from the roof and stop them, and sure enough, hot barrels from an AK, and they were the guys, and the sniper from the other house we came from. They're like, hey, I got ice on these guys. They're, we got PID.
Mm-hmm.
The lieutenant said, hey, just let them go. And we're like,
oh, what?
Like, oh, fuck no. We're not going to let them go. They had rounds all over the floor, spent shells, and they got the black vests on, and I'm like, running shoes on.
What?
I'm like, we're not going to let these guys go. They're like, well, are they a threat to you? I'm like, fuck yeah. They just shot up. They actually shot a guy from some other unit. They had a casualty over there, and we knew it was these guys. And he's like, just let them go. I'll call Battalion, take their pictures, whatever. And luckily,
that's the bullshit,
we
man.
were about to let them go when the driver, because there were three of them, and single cab pickup truck. The driver opens the door and tries to take off running with his K in his hand. And our sergeant kind of like had turned back, and I was on the roof watching all of this. And so this guy takes off running. He has an AK in his hand, and I hear over the radio the sniper guy goes, "Hey, you got a runner?" And I look, and I'm like, "Fuck this!" I had a saw at the time. I racked the saw and I just sprayed him. He was down. He didn't make it that far. When I sprayed him, the other two guys jump out of the truck, take off running. The sniper takes out the middle guy, and the guy at the far right obviously couldn't make it across the bench to our sergeant just pops them there in the truck. They still had their rifles in their hands. So,
Jeez, man. And I cannot believe your lieutenant was going to say to let them go.
So, that was the end of that. So we're like, oh, good. At least it didn't take off. And everybody on the roof, the sniper guy was about to get AJP'd for that event. And the lieutenant opened up a case with NCID. And
just NCIS. NCID.
And
were they trying to say that it was a war crime or something, that you guys just killed them?
It was a war crime, that they were trying to run away with no weapons. And the scout sniper guy was like, you know what? Fuck you, I'm just supporting you guys. They got their shit and they got picked up and they left. They're like, if you want to AJP me, I'm going to go support somebody in the meantime. Somebody else in the meantime. And, we got our asses chewed out. Our lieutenant told us he called Battalion and tried to make it this war crime that obviously didn't happen. And he called Battalion, told us to put us down into investigation mode, which is where you just sit on base and do nothing.
Yeah, you're not patrolling, you're not doing anything.
So he's like, as soon as the sun comes down, you guys come back to base. And we're going back to DQ, whatever it was. So we're sitting there all pissed off on the roof. And now, obviously, the insurgents know we're sitting on the roof. And there I am, we're just chilling, talking about it. We all take our corners of the roof, and pretty big roof. And I'm kind of leaning against this down wall. I'm looking at I want to say was looking towards an entire open field to the west, and there was a house where the whole day we were there. I saw kids. I saw the couple females picking alfalfa and feeding the animals. Well, by the time the shooting happened, the cows were gone, the goats were gone, the kids were gone, and I noticed that it was empty. Even the doors were still open. I'm like, nobody leaves their door open. And as I'm kind of like thinking, I'm like, I wonder where they went if we scared them off. Just a quick snap, freaking knocks the Kevlar off my head, and then the flash comes, the snap comes, and I see the guy come up from the prone and take off running off the roof. Once everything hit me, I'm like, fuck, I just got shot. So I, rocked my saw and I opened fire into the building, and, they were too far away for us to do anything. So then we extracted out, and later on I realized I got hit right at dead center Kevlar and
Dude,
traveled through my hair and knocked the Kevlar right off my head. Man,
I would not want to go out on any missions with you. You are you have some horrible luck, man.
yeah, man.
Oh, or you can say you have some really good luck because you survived all three of these crazy encounters. I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at it, but damn, dude, you got shot in the head. Fuck, what was that like?
Oh man, I mean, felt it and didn't. You can't react to it. It already happened. So like I quickly duck and open fire. Did what I needed to do, but I didn't even realize my helmet had gotten knocked off my head because I heard the snap of the round come really close to me. It hit the wall that was behind me, and so I opened fire. My sergeant's like, "Put your fucking helmet on," you know. And so I grabbed it, and when I grabbed it, I realized there's a flower in the back of it, and it's the exit hole of the freaking helmet. And
that's crazy, dude.
We extracted out, and we went back to base. Investigation happened. They investigated my helmet, and they realized it was whatever round. They let me keep it, which was pretty cool. And
I was gonna ask if you got to keep the helmet.
I got to keep the helmet, and
that's cool.
And the investigation about foreign crime started, and we were down for a week almost, which is stupid. And at the very end was like, no, there was no war crimes here, and and it kind of sucked because we could have been supporting other units at that time or done something more proactive.
How did the battalion look at the lieutenant though? Like how? I mean, well, you were a PFC or a lance corporal. I wonder what like the staff NCOs and officers of the unit were, how their perspective of this lieutenant was. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, if you have any insight on that, feel free to share.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I know you're.
It's one of those that it's like, hey, how's it working with Lieutenant blah blah blah, and I'm like, you know how it is, can't really do much. I'm a PFC, and same thing. No, but
yeah, but this dude's accusing you of war crimes. Yeah. Like you're a direct leader. You know, he's the first dude in your chain of command as an officer wise. Is accusing you of war crimes, and did you guys go back out and continue to work with them?
Yeah, we had to.
Like that's insane.
I think one couple of times our staff sergeant and our sergeant was like, "Hey, this guy's doing this. He's putting us in these situations. We need something." And all they can do is like, "Hey, we don't have lieutenants to replace him. There's nothing we could do." And
fucking fire him and get a staff sergeant to do the job. You know what I'm saying? Like
our sergeant, a corporal, could have done a better job. And unfortunately, right as we were coming out, a lieutenant from another platoon, their vehicle ran over an IED, and three guys from the vehicle passed away, including the lieutenant. And we had to kind of do cleanup of that, and that kind of sucked. And he was a good lieutenant, but when we were sitting throughout that investigation, and we were about to go out, one of the guys that was in that vehicle, nobody lied. It's kind of like not lazy, I want to say. Just he came to the Marine Corps, 32, had not a lot of going for himself. Just chose the Marine Corps as blah blah blah. He was a good dude. But just people didn't like him because he used common sense. One of those. And it's like, why are we doing this when we can do something else? And as he was leaving, getting ready to go out, he was sitting there in the chow hall. So I sat down and had lunch with him. And later that afternoon, I learned that, his vehicle had gotten blown out. He was the driver of the vehicle. And when I got to see the vehicle, it was pretty much cut in half down to the turret. And the turret kind of got launched out. The guys in the back seat were like just badly damaged, and we had to go kind of clean up and realize that was our AO. That was the area we were supposed to be sitting that week, and because we were during this investigation that was bullshit, insurgents came in, planted IEDs all over the freaking road, and this happened as well. So it just
I understand your animosity towards the guy, man. Like, it's just one thing after another. It's like, how can you be on that guy's side at all?
yeah, and
If he's just making bad decision after bad decision, and then accusations like that, like, if someone does something wrong, all for it. Like, hey, if you do a war crime, fuck you, man. You know what I'm saying? Because you're hurting the mission.
yeah,
And, but to just accuse someone like that, I mean, and then you have to go back and work for them.
yeah, and that was
like
the worst part of it. It's like it's not just that it didn't happen. It's like it's your own guys. You're not out there. You're not seeing what's going on. You're not doing anything. You're not patrolling. You're not doing anything. Yeah, and that's
the other thing too. Like, why is he not going out on missions?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So he can get the lay of the land and understanding of the battlefield.
There was 2 other instances, like pretty bad gunfights, that it got so bad people were getting overrun. Our guys were getting overrun. One that in that area, that intersection, right where I got blown up that time, and there it just opened. These guys opened up on the from the berm down into us. Luckily, I was outside, so where the guys in the front kind of took all the hits. Nobody was hit, luckily, but they started shooting at a passenger vehicle on the bridge, and they just lit it up. They killed like the husband and wife, and they had a kid in the back and like an old lady. They killed everybody. The insurgents did, obviously, because we were right next to the bridge and one was crossing that bridge. And so as they were moving, so the vehicle kind of rolled off the bridge into the water. So unfortunately, we couldn't recover, we couldn't do anything, and Lieutenant once again put an investigation that we shot that car. So it was just one after another, and the deployment came to an end. Everybody was glad about it, and just as soon as the deployment ended, he took off, and we were all glad. And like I say, he went to, I want to say 223, where later on I met guys who worked for him, and they said kind of just, he's a very, when you have individuals that are very focused, they'll screw everybody else around them, including their own people, just to get themselves ahead. And I'm not gonna say his name. People that work for him. We had a major in Third Angle that he became a captain then. That major, he was one of his captains, and he's like, I didn't like working for him. So yeah.
No, it's that's one of those things, man. It's like, I was talking to a couple episodes ago. I had Lieutenant Colonel David. Oh, damn it! I'm fucking his name up. He's gonna listen to this too. I think it's Anderson. Jesus, let me look real quick now that I feel bad. Armstrong. Jesus, sorry. Anyway, Lieutenant Colonel David Armstrong on the show, and I was talking to him about awards and how I think officers shouldn't get awards. Like, maybe save like a Medal of Honor or something like that, or Navy Cross, but like Combat Action Ribbon, shit like that. Because I think it causes some dudes that are trying to get that ribbon, because it's so important to some people for whatever reason, to make bad decisions, to put themselves in a situation where they can, get the award that they're looking for, or something like that.
Right.
And I'm sure, and the fucked up thing for you guys too is that all the stuff that you did, I'm sure your lieutenant got an award at the end of the deployment, based off of his platoon's performance, which is what all the work that you guys did, that he didn't do any, patrolling or any of it with you.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he didn't get an award, but usually, if you do a good deployment, you get an award at the end of it as an officer, especially.
He got the awards, trust me. He got them.
Yeah. See? Yeah. And it's like, and that's the worst thing ever, is when you're a guy that's been out working and sweating and doing it, and then you go and you stand in formation and watch an officer get an award for it. That's why a lot of times they do them behind closed doors for officers or whatever, which is, again, like, if you think he doesn't deserve it or doesn't deserve to have the whole unit see him get it, then why are you giving it to him? And I don't know. I understand the animosity, man. It's just so messed up, especially because junior Marines don't really come back and get awards. for their deployment. You know, you don't get a NAM as a Lance Corporal for just going out and doing your job every day. You know, you got to do something above and beyond or whatever, which I get it, you know. But I don't know. It's just I don't like the system.
All of my awards were written up by my staff sergeant. None of them were written up by the lieutenant, because here we go. The staff sergeant would go out when he didn't have to. The sergeants would be out there with us. You know, they were, and they were all the awards I received was from them, and because they knew what I've done, what, you know, things like that. But you know, it just didn't leave a good taste in that deployment because of that, and leadership wise.
Yeah.
And then, you know, once we got back, and I'm like, you know what, I just don't want to work with somebody like that. And I kind of thought, I'm like, man, not all lieutenants are like that. I've dealt with lieutenants that actually like their job and do the right thing, and they're patrolling and do this. And luckily, when I got back, you know, right away they told us, hey, we're going to Sangin. And that was come back, I want to say early 2008. They told us we're going to Sangin, so we're going to start doing the workups. And once he left, our lieutenant was a Mustang, and I was all about it. This guy was, he was in that deployment as well with a different company, and he had gotten shot in his cleaning kit in his rifle. What do you find the right word? It disintegrated the rifle cleaning kit in his rifle or in his backpack. I don't remember where he had it, but the round
was it in the buttstock? Remember how you could keep them in the buttstock of the rifle, or did he have an M4?
Then he must. I don't remember exactly, but I remember it was a cleaning kit, because one of the cleaning rods helped it ricochet, made the bullet go into his butt cheek. So he had, you know, he got shot in the ass. So that was the joke about the lieutenant. We're doing humps and stuff, and obviously I'm right behind him doing humps. He told me, hey, if you see blood, you know, my butt cheek, let me know. And so the big joke with them was, you know, by then doing workout, you kind of get to know the lieutenants and things like that. He was just down to a Mustang guy. He's like, yeah, just, you know, call me lieutenant in front of everybody else, but, you know, just, you know, I'm going to be doing this with you guys. So, you know, that kind of
was he prior infantry?
Prior infantry, yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so it was my responsibility to tell him, hey, sir, you need to change your tampon. So that was a big joke with the guy. So, and you know, obviously he laughed and stuff, but yeah. And so that deployment ended in 2007 towards September, I want to say. And I kind of started noticing, and then, you know, you come back, you go and hang out with family, you're not comfortable because you're not in a war zone anymore. And I think that's also a lot what people don't talk about is you're comfortable with the guys, you're around the guys all the time, so nobody ever talks about PTSD because you don't know how it's going to affect you, how it hits you, when it hits you, or how you should react to it. And so I'm like, nobody told me what even PTSD was. You know, I didn't even know about it. And so there I am at where was I? It was a fast food restaurant, but I'm getting a cup of ice. And I'm just filling this cup of ice. And just, I spaced out, and I was back in Iraq. And I'm holding this cup of ice to the vending machines, and I'm holding it, and I start to pour out of it, and this little kid is like, excuse me, sir, you got ice all over the floor. And I kind of snapped out of it, and I'm just drenched in sweat, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? This is like a month after we got back. So I'm like, what the hell was that? You know, like I've never experienced something like that. And, you know, I was like, and you probably should talk to somebody. So I started going, you know, I already had my medical appointments and things like that because I got checked out from that explosion. They still checked me out, and they were like, yeah, your knees are pretty bad, and you're supposed to deploy again. Probably shouldn't. And that was the first time they told me I shouldn't deploy. I'm like, well, no, I'm not going to let my guys go to Sangin Valley when you're hearing all these horrible stories from, was it 3-7? What was there before 2-7?
3-5. 3-5 was
3-5.
the ones that, well, I think 2-7 was there in 2010 or 2009. And 3-5, so 2-7 went there for like 2 months or something. I think they went for the last portion of their deployment and then to rip out with the Brits. And then 3-5 came in and ripped out with them. It might have been 1-7. But either way, it was around 2009 time frame, I think, when the first unit went there.
We were supposed to go to Sangin, and so I'm all excited about it. We're starting to do Mojave Viper again. You know, training all these guys at the time now. 0351s are being disbanded. So they're about to put 0351s and 0352s as the same MOS. And so I don't get to do my job anymore. Now I'm a tow gunner. And, you know, it kind of sucked. But, you know, doing the workup and all this, my doctor appointments kind of increased. So I'm kind of missing some training here and there. But, you know, the good thing, the battalion was understanding of it. And I realized that I couldn't see out of my rifle sight that well. And I'm like, man, I can't focus. You know, I'm a right-handed shooter, so I'm looking out at the right side, while my left eye is just like acting all funky. So we couldn't figure out what was going on, and I finally the Naval Hospital approved a very expensive procedure at Balboa, there in San Diego, to do this pretty much a mapping of my entire eyes to see what was going on, and they found optic neuropathy, which is pretty much if you've been blunt force trauma, explosions, a lot of light, something like that will tear up your eye. It'll cause a scar. That scar will block vision. So what I noticed, at the center of my vision, I will see a dark black spot, and it was getting bigger. So I started kind of getting worried. So they're like, yeah, this I guess scar, it's healing, so you might even lose vision in that little area. And I had lost peripheral vision, and you know, I was kind of getting worried there that I was losing my vision on my left eye, and so the doctor sat down and it's like, hey, we don't know if this is going to get any better, we don't know if this is going to get worse, but you're about to deploy in a month. You need to think about to see if you really want to deploy. Because if you deploy, something else happens, you're putting yourself and others in danger too. You can make it worse to where you can actually lose your vision. So you need to make a choice of not deploying. And I'm like, no, screw that. I'm not gonna throw out deployment like that. And somehow my doctor I got a hold of the battalion, told them what was going on, and they sat me down. There's the sergeant major, the first sergeant, the lieutenant colonels, and they're like, hey, thank you for what you've done, but we're going to make you non-deployable. And I think that was like the lowest of the lows that a battalion could do to you. Pretty much like me and you sitting here, and you have no idea why you were there. You know, I thought I was in trouble because I went drinking the night before. And just to tell you,
and that wasn't it.
Just tell you that 7 days out, we were about to fly out 7 days later to tell me that I was not deployable. And,
that sucks, man.
And they're like, report to RB tomorrow, and stay in touch.
It's funny. Some guys would be relieved. They'd be like, "Oh, thank God, I'm not."
Oh, here I am. I was still a Lance Corporal then. And man, I broke down into tears. I was like, please, sir, you can't do this to me. And they're like, we don't want to do this because you've gone through all the training, blah, blah, blah. And, but we don't want to put you, most importantly, somebody else in danger. And at the end of it all, that's what it was. That, I go blind in combat. I'm used to nobody. you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes
so
sense. Matt Ketting was on a few episodes ago. He was a recon Marine, and he got blown up. And same thing. He got back from a deployment, and then he actually did another deployment before, in between, came back from the next deployment, and then was like, you know what, like it's getting so bad that I'm becoming a hindrance, and I can't like do my job without, to the level that you need to be. Like you don't want to become a liability for your own team.
yeah,
And I think that's when he actually requested to go through a med board, because he knew. But yeah, man, that's such a. Yeah, and the crazy thing too is like vision is one of those things that like you don't want to mess with. I can't imagine losing vision, not being able to see. I mean, even from one eye, I think having one eye is good, but I just don't know. And I mean, do you look back now and go, they made the right call?
at the time they did. My vision got better now, but you know, you're used to looking for these hair thin copper wires. You need 20/20 vision, and I'm like, there was no way I was going to be able to do my job, and
Yeah.
it took me a little bit to accept it, but I think they did the right call, and
Yeah.
and then with all the stuff that I'd gone through, then I'm like, man, how much luck am I pushing here? If saying it's going to be the freaking crazy kind of deployment again. So it took me a little bit to accept it. I went to pretty bad depression after that. Just showing up to work, and they hadn't put me on a med board yet. I was just going to my appointments. My roommate was another guy who had gotten hit by an ID and had seizures. Got seizures after the ID went off, knocked something loose on his head. But he was getting seizures, and then we had all those guys who smoked pot right before deployments and got in trouble. All the shitheads, they just decided to get away from deployment once they learned saying was where we were going. So
did they still deploy them?
No, they didn't, because
No,
they ended up getting jail time and all that. That's when weed was pretty not legal in California and all that stuff. So
yeah, we had a guy get a tattoo on his neck. There was a guy at 3-6 who got a tattoo on his neck to try to get out of the deployment. He thought they'd kick him out.
Oh no!
And he got like a spider tattoo, and they're like, "No, dude, we're gonna kick you out, but not until after the deployment's over." And there was a dude who got caught smoking on deployment, smoking weed. I think he got some weed from one of the Afghans. And they're like, "You're staying out here. Like, you're staying in the deployment. But as soon as we get back, like, there's going to be PMO waiting for you by the plane. Like, you're getting detained when we get back."
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah, fuck that, dude."
Yeah, I never understood that. I know it's kind of scary to deploy, and the area you're going to, but they just to screw over the other guys like that, and now they lose somebody who could be watching their six, and that was kind of a kick to the balls dealing with those guys every day.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. And some guys, we had a kid who, when I was a 3-6, so they had done the push into Marja, the year prior. So this was the deployment after that major Marja deployment. And so I think that's why some of these guys didn't want to go back, because they're like, shit, man, that was kind of rough. That was kind of a legitimate deployment. A lot of dudes got killed, and stuff like that from all the units that were in Marja. There was a bunch of casualties. And so, maybe that's part of it. But I remember when we were over there at 3-6, there was a kid who was supposed to be on RBE. They're like, "Hey, man, you're going to be on part of the RBE, the remain behind element. You're going to be staying back here while the battalion goes." Someone came and told him, they're like, "Hey, man, you're going to go on guard force," which he thought they meant the guard force that deploys and goes, and that's the guys that are going to stay on post on the little bases. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about. For those that don't know, when you get over there, the little fobs and cops, they make a guard force, and now you're on post and shit. He thought they meant that, and they meant like area guard back on RBE. Well, after they told him that, he went and jumped off head first off the barracks to try to kill himself, like the second or third deck. Didn't even kill himself.
Yeah.
Broke his neck and broke his back and got put in the hospital. I can't remember which first sergeant it was. He landed in front of some first sergeant that just happened to be walking by, and the dude was just like, "What the fuck are you?" Like, just started yelling at him, like, "What the fuck are you doing, dude?" You know, like, I don't know, man. That's just, I don't, like you said, I don't get it. I don't understand the. It's like you're surprised you're getting called up to do your job, or maybe it suddenly became super real for some of these guys, but yeah, it's just tough to see a guy that's, starts to like freak out like that right before the actual deployment. It's like, what are you doing, man? Are you good?
Yeah. So once the unit deployed and that, and so I was like, well, I gotta make good use of my time. So my mistake was not taking like online classes, things like that. But I was going in at the hospital trying to like do all this stuff. So I ended up getting knee surgery for my compressed knees. So that put me in a wheelchair for a couple weeks and crutches for another month, things like that. And that happened. I ended up getting like some sort of laser eye surgery just so they could look deep inside to make sure nothing else was damaged. But they're like, yeah, just time will tell. And that got me involved with other Marines that had been injured, and they're like, oh yeah, do this or that, keep your mind clear as to, just sitting here in your room, and because they do pretty heavy meds, and so you just pretty much a vegetable and not be productive at all. And so I went up to the RBE, I think it was a Gunny at the time, that was also going through a med board, and I'm like, hey Gunny, I'm like, I just can't take it living in the room the whole time, so I'm like, I need to be doing something. He's like, all right, well, we'll put you with the fat guys, how about that, and make you do something. And at the time, my EAS was July of 2009, so that was a year and a half-ish or so that I still had left of my time. So I was like, that works, as long as I can make my appointments to the doctor, that's, keep me busy. So first he sent me to range coach, be a range coach's assistant. And that was awesome time, because other than the infantry units, all these headquarter units or non-deployable units come in, or even reservists that don't get the shooting time. And I'm like, well, I get to teach people how to productively become better shooters. And that was a good time. I was there for about 5-6 months until one of the sergeants was like, hey, we need guys to be coyotes for, what do you call it, for Mojave Viper. I was like,
yeah,
fuck yeah, now I don't have to go through the school, hell yeah. It's like, just put your little reflective backpack on and just make sure people aren't shooting each other. And so I was a coyote for another 3 months, and then it, the actual...
For the real quick, for those that don't know what a coyote is, those are the guys that are like the range personnel or people that work at 29 Palms out in the training area that help make a massive training event happen safely, and they like coordinate everything behind the scenes while the unit is like going through like an attack. They're the ones that are like dictating how the training goes. Like they add new scenarios or pull something back or be like a safety walker just to make sure that whatever they're doing. Like when dudes would do CASC, close air support, stuff like that, they have a coyote up there that's a JTAC and stuff like that does all the safety calculations as well, just to confirm everything's right. So I just wanted to throw that in there real quick.
Yeah, and that was awesome time there. And then finally the battalion came back, and they're like, well, we need people to do working party here, working party there. And I noticed that they needed people to do funeral service. And one of my buddies happened to be, right before they came back, actually, there was a vehicle rollover. And I want to say it was the last couple of weeks that were there, just all accident. They hit a ditch, and I want to say a 6-5 rolled over. He was on the gun and, got killed. So I got to go do funeral service out to Alaska, where he was from, and got really close with his family. We still keep in touch and stuff like that. And
That's got to be tough, man.
Yeah.
To go do a funeral service like that.
And yeah, he was one of my good friends too. And do that. I don't know. That kind of piled on onto things that like kind of picks up your PTSD as you're growing up, starting to get out of the Marine Corps, things like that. And, you know, I just did whatever they told me to do that would keep me busy. I did it. They offered me to become a truck driver, do truck driving training for people getting out. And I'm like, it's free. And I went and did it, you know, and
yeah,
it kept me out of just being in the barracks. So I got my truck driver's license. What else did I do? Yeah, just started going the process of getting out, and I was like, well, I'm kind of like broke dick, like they call me, you know, I'm not useful anymore. So I got out, went back to my normal routine, and then realized how much you miss the military, all of this. I was already married at the time, and coming back to just...
When you got out, was it on the med board? It was like a medical retirement?
No, actually, the med board did not get approved because they didn't see significant damage to put me on a retirement, I guess.
Okay.
So they just said, take all of this to the VA, and the VA will kind of take care of it because they're just normal injuries. So, you know, went home and got a job as security guard for ADT, the home security systems. And I'm like, you know, it sucked, man. Going to a 9 to 5 and just dealing with shitty fat bodies, I guess, you know, civilians. And it's like they have no common sense of anything, and they go throughout their day and they don't take pride of anything. And they took things for granted. And I was like, you know what, this is not what I want to do. And I went to a prior service recruiter. And I'm like, I want back in, man. They're like, well, weren't you on the med board? Med board got cleared, so I wasn't really on the med board. So pretty much EAS'd out. So I was medically in limited duty, but I was never medically separated. And he goes, all right, let me see what I can do. Sure enough, that was the end of September. And he's like, all right, man, looks like you would be good to come in because you got like 3 more years still. And he's like, well, we got a good combat unit over here, Port Hueneme, there in Central California, I think Santa Barbara-ish area, Santa Ventura. And you'll fall right in, you know, looks like you're ready to pick up sergeant here, you know, it's nice, you can do all this. And I'm like, are they going to deploy? And he's like, no, man, this unit now became non-deployable because I don't need infantry units. And I'm like, well, I want to deploy again, man. Just don't join the military, not deploy. And he's like, all right, let me see what I can do. He calls us back the next day. He's like, all right, I got this unit that's about to start doing workups to get ready to deploy. But, and here's the but, you got a lat move. And I was like, all right, lat move to what? And he goes, this is Third Angle Go. It's out of somewhere in LA, but they're JTACs and forward observers. And I'm like, well, I know what a forward observer is. You know, my sergeant did all the fire support stuff. He was a forward observer. Pretty much infantry, you know. He's like, and he's like, if you want to do it, this is your chance. You can deploy again. So I signed the papers again. This was right before Thanksgiving of 2009. You know, told my wife I got recalled, and you know, went back in.
That's funny.
And they're like, yeah, you're going to go to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for the training out there as an FO. So Fort Sill sucked. It just another 20 palms, just in a different part of the country. And at the time, I was still a corporal, and I was in a class of bold sergeants. So that sucked because here I am marching all the recruits or all the new guys, and I came from an infantry unit. I don't know how to call cadence. I don't know how to put my uniforms together to call cadence, and I don't know any ditties. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, walk to the, you know, I'm getting over there in trouble for not marching guys and stuff by other sergeants there. So I'm like, you know what? I don't care. You know, I'm here in school with you guys. I'm not here to march people. So, you know, I was bumping heads with a lot of the sergeants, and sure enough, it came to the last day, all the training we did there, and I guess they finally gave respect when we did a Charlie's inspection, and that's when when you shine your colors, you put all your ribbons on, and there was a sergeant there that was going to pick up staff sergeant, and he was by far the only one that matched me. I have 2 Purple Hearts on them, an Air Medal, and anyway, for being a Lance Corporal, I was the most decorated Lance Corporal in my unit. So, we did a lot of shit, and, I guess I'm proud of what I've done, but then at the same time, and
as you should
I never tell people, like, having a Purple Heart is not something to wear. It's something that the enemy got you. People died for that medal. People are injured. That's my low point. That's something I remember as not something good. Compared to all my accomplishments, I'm like, I was kind of embarrassed to be in my Charlies with, Purple Hearts. And I'm like, I kind of put them on. They're like, what the fuck? Where'd you get this? Where'd you get that? And then I look around, all these other sergeants, like a good 3/4 of them. I forgot how big my class was, but none of them have even deployed. They didn't even have service deployment ribbons. The only other guys that deployed were in Muse. And then I came to realize that it was myself and another sergeant, the only ones that have been in combat. And then that's when, it took them to see that in me. And it was like an eye-opener. It's like, okay, I'm not kind of worthless, shitty corporal over here that couldn't pick up sergeant in 4 years. Some of those guys, just re-enlisted, and they're talking about how much their re-enlistment bonus was and what they bought with the re-enlistment bonuses, because to become an FO, I want to say it was $35,000, and then a lot of people didn't got them what they were deployed, so it was tax-free. And so then we went to Coronado and
did naval gunfire.
Did the island out there. So it kind of sucked because I was by myself. I had nobody. I didn't know anybody, and I didn't really make friends with any other guys because now I'm the only grunt there, and they're like, this shitbag, from grunt. So
that's kind of surprising because my class of lap movers, because I was a lap mover as well, like I said, I was a mechanic and then I lap moved. Most of us all hung out and got along. There was like 1 or 2 dudes that were just kind of like weird dudes that we just didn't hang out. I mean, we still talked to them and stuff, but it wasn't like we were going out with them on the weekend.
Yeah.
But we had a pretty good class. I'm kind of surprised that, you felt ostracized. I can see the rank thing kind of being a thing.
Oh yeah, it was pretty.
But a lot of times at a school like that, when you're a lap mover, nobody knows anything, And I'm sure most of those dudes are lap moving from support units and not or support jobs and not combat arms style jobs. Right. Like me, like guys like me.
Yeah, and I think I'm a weird guy. I'm not gonna lie, but I think it was mostly the rank thing. They do. Old sergeants. They go out and get drinks and stuff and. I went out with a couple other guys and went to Scooters. Everybody goes to Scooters out there.
Fucking Scooters.
And
that was the place. Yeah, it was like 25-cent bottle of Bud Lights or something like that on Friday nights.
I think I drank like 12 Budweisers, and I was so hydrated for a hike the next day. You can't believe it. Yeah, and didn't even get a buzz. But yeah, I think it was just mostly the rank thing because. I was the only one going at that angle go. Everybody was like first angle go or supporting units and things like that. And I ran into a couple of those guys later on in deployments with other angle go units.
Yeah.
But yeah.
How long were you with Anglico for?
I was there from September, November of 2009, and I got out. Beginning of 2012, so just about 3 years.
So you were there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, what I'd like to do, man, is I don't want to cut the conversation off, but I think we're getting close to 3 hours total.
Really?
I know, right? It flies. Yeah, I think when I put the 2, because I know we had that gap where we had some technical issues. I think that comes to about 3 hours. What I'd like to do is stop here and then get into like your Anglico stuff, like your transition to becoming a forward observer and all that stuff, and what you did there, and then anything else you might want to bring back up on a later episode.
Okay.
If that works for you.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah.
Cool, man. Because that what I found is that I would totally continue to sit here, because this is literally one of the more like, this is probably one of the crazier like interviews I've done, with like some of the stuff you talked about getting blown up by VBIDs and everything else. I'd love to continue this, but I know that a lot of people hit about 2 hours and then they start turning it off. They don't listen anymore. And I don't want like parts of your story to get missed. So I'd rather bring you back on so that we can get a fuller picture and you'll get a broader audience of who's hearing it. But I do, before we go though, I want to give you an opportunity, if you have any kind of organization or anything like that you want to, throw out a shout out to or something. I'm sure you've been affiliated with many, having been injured multiple times.
Yeah. A big thanks to the Wounded Warrior Battalion out there. I don't know if it's still a thing. I'm pretty sure it is, but
it is.
It's not quite an organization outside of the Marine Corps, but it helped a lot. It helps you get through a lot of done stuff that you go through. Out here, I've dealt with the Wounded Warrior Battalion, not Wounded Warrior, Wounded Warrior Project, and also the Semper Fi Fund that they put together reunions for 2-7, and that link I sent you for that article about the Forgotten Battalion, which is 2-7, and all those suicides after deployments, which is very important. I think it's one
it's tough.
One of those things that gets overshadowed, but 22 a day is too many, and we don't see it, we don't hear about it too much because it's not in the news or anything, but 2-7, I think, lost 13 guys at that deployment in Iraq, and within a year we matched it in suicides. I think less than a year we matched in suicides, and it just sad that families get destroyed. Just there's no signs, there's nothing, man. It's all in people's heads, and I try to get a hold of people and try to just be there, just listening to somebody. I never even, this is my first time. Actually, a lot of people had hit me up to be in their podcasts and stuff, and I always said no, because it's something very personal to be in a deployment like that, where you lose so many guys, to just be thrown away. I kind of felt by the military, and I don't know. Just to let you know, I got 10% rating from the VA, so that's something else I'm dealing with. I'll bring that up later.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and that's just from
Jesus.
And that's just from tinnitus. I've still been fighting it, so I just moved out to Missouri from California, so I'm gonna hit up the VA out here. So California was not helpful at all. So, but
that's insane, man. 10% with all of that.
Yeah.
That's the real tragedy, like guys like you that, you did what you're supposed to do, and you went out and went to work when, you were called upon and stuff like that. And then to be given an unfair rating like that after being blown up, shrapnel in you, like, almost losing your eye, like all that, that's bullshit 100%,
Yeah.
But I do appreciate you coming on and telling the story. And I shout out to Rothblatt for, hitting you up. I don't know if he's one of the guys that were bugging you or anything like that. He just texted me last week and was like, "Hey, I got a guy who would be good to come on the show." So I really appreciate you coming on, and I know the listeners are really going to appreciate hearing this. And the talk about suicide and stuff like that, it's just, oh man, I wish guys got out and found something that, you gotta get out and find something that you're engaged with, that causes you to work, that causes you just gotta have something that drives you, something that you want to be good at. College isn't for everybody. I recommend people using their GI Bill, but if college isn't for you and you're not gonna get fulfillment from that, use that money to go through like a trade school or something else, or learn art. Like, even if you don't want to go to college, you already have a good job, use that GI Bill money to learn art on the side, do something to express yourself, and you got to find something that, you're never going to replace the military.
Yeah,
you're never going to replace.
And I think that's what people need. That's what people think they need. And that's one thing I did that I know I'm guilty about, that you look for jobs other than contracting, you're not going to find anything similar, even close to what we did in the military. You can become a police officer and all of that. You know, you're not going to see that. You're going to deal with all those med heads and thugs and all of that. But, you know, nothing comes.
Nobody wants to do that nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, I don't know, it's tough, man. And it's tough getting out. And nobody taught me how to process my way out. And I was out on my own again. And I kind of, you know, went through other personal stuff. You know, talk about it in other podcasts, and like my perspective as to how, because still to this day I didn't think I had PTSD, but I realized I had it when I'm just laying in bed at 2 p.m. and all I'm looking forward to is to drink. And you know, all these bad thoughts come to your head, and I'm like, that's a good way out. And I thought about it, man. And I don't tell people I'm not proud of it, but I'm like, man, it's what we're dealing with. We can't find that high from combat anywhere else, to where we're just like numb anymore, I think. And my outlet was running. I'm like, I got my knees fixed from surgery, and you know, I was told I wasn't going to be able to run, so I'm like, nah, I'm going to run. And doctor's like, don't run. And so I got out of the military, and obviously I had to do PFTs again. So I started just running, you know, and I ended up doing several marathons and, you know,
That's
things
awesome.
like that. And so that was my outlet, just running, putting my music on and things like that.
That's you know, that's the key, and I think getting outdoors in general is just good. You know, like I like going out and camping and I'm planning a trip right now. I was just camping recently up at Thomas Mountain here in California, and I'm planning a trip out to the desert to go shooting and camping right now. And I think going out into the wilderness, you know, the desert or the mountains or whatever, and just not having a cell phone, you know, not having signal or something, just being away from everything, it gives you time to like reset. You know, you can think through some stuff without all the distractions and the bullshit, and just get outside and fresh air and sunshine and all that stuff, you know, that people need.
It's true.
And that's, you know, it's stuff like that. That's what guys got to do, man. Too many guys do what you're talking about, where they just wake up, you know, start thinking negative thoughts and go right to the bottle or something else, you know, like that. Or, you know, they just sit at home, and it's a disservice to themselves, and it's a disservice to to like the people they lost and stuff like that, you know, because that's not how they'd want you to be.
Right.
You know, that's not how they'd want you to live your life, sitting around moping around. It's like, dude, get out and go see the stuff that, you know, you always wanted to see. You know, if you're gonna waste away, at least waste away going to see something cool rather than waste away on your couch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I just can't. I get it. It's easy to slip into, man. It's easy when you're depressed and stuff like that. You have no one to talk to. You know, that's the other thing, is that guys need to realize that there are people to talk to. You know, guys should definitely be reaching out to dudes that they were in their units with and stuff like that, just to say, hey, shoot a text, like, what's up, man? I hope you're doing well. You know, my dad talked about on the last episode, I did a Father's Day episode with him about guys getting involved in the VSOs, you know, going to the VFW or going to the Legion and stuff. Because, you know, that's the closest thing you're going to get to a group of people that can understand, you know, can kind of get it, you know, can kind of understand. And, yeah, man. So again, like I said, it's, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about it, because it definitely is some personal stuff, and it is some traumatic things that you probably don't want to relive, you know, or go through again. But it's a public service, because it gives a reality of, you know, of what can happen on a deployment and what the realities of the military to people that may hear this that haven't deployed yet or thinking about joining the Marine Corps. You know, it's not a movie, you know, it's not all cool shit. You know, there's like realities of getting hit by a fucking, truck bomb, stuff like that. And so, again, thank you for coming on and telling your story. And we'll set up a time sometime this summer or something like that to have you come back on, and we'll get some more into it and stuff like that. But if there's anything else you want to say, go ahead. If you want to put out your social media or anything like that, you feel free to do it.
Sure. Yeah, if anybody wants to reach out and maybe ask more personal questions or ask either for help as to how I got through stuff, an Instagram would be a good one. It's Better Called Saul. It's spelled better _called _Sal. S-A-L.
Okay, cool, man. And I'll put that up on the, for those that are listening but haven't seen the YouTube channel yet, what I've been doing is putting my Instagram and my guest Instagram, if they want it out there, and Twitter, if they have that, on the sidebar of the video so that it's up there so that people can go to the YouTube video and see that too. Well, man, thanks for coming on the show, and I look forward to our next conversation. And, if you ever need anything, feel free to hit me up.
Oh, awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
For sure, dude. Well, have a good day.
All right, thank you. You too.
All right, later.
Bye.